Welcome to BrigadeCon 2014. If you haven't already tuned into any of the other events that have been run today, this is the first BrigadeCon, the first online-only convention run by the YouTube RPG Brigade, with all proceeds going to charity, the charity being Child's Play. If you haven't already checked out BrigadeCon's website, I implore you to do so. The links to contribute are all accessible via there, along with links to all of the other events that are going on, other games that are being run, seminars that are taking place, all being hosted by members of the YouTube RPG Brigade, to other YouTube role-playing game personalities, if that's the word. I suppose we do have character, so YouTube RPG characters. This game is Numenera, magnificent men and their flying machines, delightfully cribbed from the old movie of the same name. This game is set in Chi, or Quay, the capital of the nation of Draeolus in the Steadfast, in the western half of the Ninth World. Our characters will be described to you, the viewer, very shortly, are being decked out by the players at this point. But what I will be doing is randomly rolling to see which ciphers and oddities they end up with, because one of the excellent facets of Numenera is the random equipment generation. So what I'm going to do first is the Duke, who is our glaive, who will be described in further detail shortly, his two ciphers. So I'm going to be rolling my 2d10 using Dice Stream. Now I don't know whether it will show up on my screen, it often doesn't. Nope. So Duke, your first cipher, whether it's useful or not in this game of flying machines, is actually a water breather.
Perfect.
I'm sure you'll find some kind of use for it. You have got your water breather in the form of a pill.
Huh. Okay, that's awesome.
And for whatever purpose, it is a level 2 water breather. It doesn't affect the duration as far as you know, but it's a level 2 water breather.
Perfect.
So, we will now go for your second cipher. Your second one is also in the high range, it's a 96, which is a visual displacement device. It is another level 2 cipher. It is in the form of a handheld device, like a little Palm Pilot. Projects holographic images of you to confuse attackers. The images appear around you. It gives you an asset to speed defense actions for 10 minutes, because, of course, it allows you to be more agile. People who are trying to strike you won't necessarily know where you are.
Perfect.
Okay, so now we'll go on to the wonderful world of the more useless Numenera that exists, the oddities, but you could argue the more fun. I've seen oddities being used in Numenera perhaps more than I've seen ciphers, because they're just a bit of fun, really. Okay, your oddity. You own, for some reason, a ceramic ring that makes you feel as though gentle hands are caressing your body. I don't know whether you wear it all the time, but when you do, it feels like gentle hands are caressing your body. So congratulations for that, you old deviant, you. And that is your ciphers and your oddity done. So if you've noted them, I know you've already noted your statistics down, the kind of thing you're going to be armed with, but we'll get back to you shortly about who your character is and what he's about.
Perfect.
So we're going to move on to player 2 now. Our Jack Mortimer, Baron Mortimer, and let's see what he gets in the way of ciphers. Okay, so his first cipher, let's see if one of them can be offensive, is an infiltrator, which sounds a bit like a sex toy. I don't know whether that's appropriate for BrigadeCon. It sounds a bit like a sex toy, a lot like a sex toy, but it isn't. It's a device that adheres to your temple and launches projectiles. It's a tiny capsule that gets launched and moves at great speed, mapping and scanning an unknown area. It moves 500 feet per level, scanning an area up to 50 feet per level away from it. So its level is 3. So, well, that's not bad, really. It can move up to 1,500 feet and scan up to 150 feet away from it. It identifies basic layout, creatures, and major energy sources, blocked by any physical or energy barriers. That's a pretty good scouting device, really. And because it's locked onto your temple, you can imagine it probably goes over your eye and you can see wherever it's going.
Right.
So we'll deal with your second cipher now, which is a living solvent. Okay, I've never had that again rolled up in any of my games of Numenera. It's a canister that contains slime. It is a level 2 cipher. Once released, this organic slime dissolves 1 cubic foot of material each round. After 1 round per cipher level, the slime dies and becomes inert. So you've got 2 rounds worth of, well, solvent.
Interesting.
Now, how your characters came upon these ciphers or how they came into your possession will have to be something that you come up with in the course of the game. Now, we'll finally deal with your oddity. Your oddity is a plate of glass that when you view the night sky through it reveals 10 times as many stars. It's more like a party piece rather than a useful device, but that seems to be the general rule for oddities.
Great on dates.
Yeah. So you good with that?
Yes.
Okay, now I know that our player 3, Sal, is still creating his character, so what I will turn to at this point is, well, in fact what I will do before anything else is describe the setting that this game is taking place in which this game is taking place, rather. The group are going to be based, at least initially, in the capital city of Draolis, a city by the name of Chi. Now, Draolis is a proudly military nation. It's home to the bestial legions, the generals of which wear the masks of differing monstrosities in the Ninth World. Each mask is emblematic of the service that particular legion practices during times of war. So, for instance, the general that wears the mask of the Broken Hounds likely leads a legion of scavengers and occupiers. The general that wears the mask of the Earthshaker is likely to be a greatly destructive legion. Scorched earth policy, that kind of thing. It's very rare for a general to retire, although it can happen. Most of the legions of Draolis serve until death, but the benefits for staying in service are great. Now, as well as that, Draolis is home to the Amber Papacy. It's not currently at war, although tempers around Draolis's borders are quite high at this point, with various other nations in the steadfast. And the Amber Papacy, which is the preeminent faith of the Ninth World, makes its home in Chi, where this game is in fact set. It's also home to an amazing flotilla of balloons and airships. Indeed, the use of dirigibles is pretty much exclusive to Chi and some of the very closely surrounding towns and villages of Draolis. Other cities and nations of the Steadfast just don't have the mooring stations or refueling stations that are needed to keep these airships up in the air, so their use is limited, despite their unmistakably awe-inducing visual presence. As soon as you enter or even grow close to the city of Chi, the air is filled, the sky is filled with these massive dirigibles in multicolours, each one a different colour or different design, like a jockey's vest, due to their need to identify one another. The Guild of Dirigible Manufacturing supposedly keeps a record of every single dirigible by colour and design. So that is Chi. Chi is ruled, as is the rest of Draelis, by the plutocracy. The plutocracy are, of course, a government of incredibly wealthy oligarchs and aristocrats, those who have pulled themselves up by their bootstraps and control via wealth. And so that is kind of a feeling in Draelis, this air of capitalism and also conquest via wealth. The military increasingly feeling sidelined by the plutocracy's need to impose power through, well, shins, the currency of the Ninth World. But there is a balance there. Sometimes what money can't buy is what the military is used for, which is why their presence is ever felt. Every road across Draelis, every major road, is patrolled by the army, exacting very high tolls on travellers, especially those who aren't native to this nation. That is one way in which the military and the plutocracy are hand in hand. Where does this actually leave the Amber Papacy? Well, like many faiths, it doesn't actually have a direct bearing on the government of Draelis, at least not an obvious one. Its quarters, the cathedrals, the temples, and the collegiate of the Amber Papacy are all based in Xi and are afforded special tax breaks, are afforded special property laws, but supposedly have absolutely no influence over the government. But anyone who believes that is probably brand new to the country and has never actually encountered an Aeon priest or another member of the Amber Papacy. So that is Draelis. Our game will actually start in a location known as the Crystal Rose Gardens within Chi. The Crystal Rose Gardens are a place of contemplation, of peace, of meditation, of rumination. All of Chi allows for dirigibles to fly overhead, even across the grand spires of the Amber Papacy's cathedrals, excluding the Crystal Rose Gardens. It is an exclusive location. Only members of the plutocracy, only generals of the legions, only those who have been granted exclusive rights, including some Aeon priests, are permitted to walk within the cloistered walls of the Crystal Rose Gardens. Imagine a plaza that is almost completely silent. No dirigibles are permitted to pass overhead because of this place's great importance. Why is it important? Well, no one is particularly sure, at least no one who speaks about this kind of thing is particularly sure. The only thing that grows here are the eponymous crystal roses. Roses that, for all intents and purposes, appear to be made of a quartz-like mineral, but grow like an organic plant. And they grow, they blossom, and they wilt, and they die. Except on the occasions when the Amber Papacy sends representatives to pluck the blossoming roses for reasons unknown. Some claim that the roses are used for fuel for various weird temporal engines at the hands of the Amber Papacy. Others claim that it's just their preferred form of table ornament for when they invite dignitaries from other nations. But the Crystal Rose Gardens themselves are a symbol. They're a symbol of exclusivity. Not many people get the chance to walk within them, admire the beauty of the roses. It's a symbol of peace. If the rest of Chi is a hustle and bustle, a chaotic sprawl, a place where people are rubbing shoulders with beggars, where airships are literally feet overhead and the sound of rumbling engines and burning air is just within earshot wherever you go, this place is peace. It is tranquility. It's where every pauper, every trader, every soldier would just love for an opportunity to be. It is greatly important to the people of Chi through symbolism alone. That is where our group will actually start, within the walls of that particular plaza. Now, why they've been given the right to walk within them, I can leave entirely up to the players. If they are happy to make that decision, then we will turn it over to them shortly. Otherwise, I will come up with a reason for it. But this is where our adventure will begin. So, first things first, I'm going to turn to the Duke, our glaive, to introduce his character and why he may be in the Crystal Rose Gardens. So, over to you.
I will be playing Duke Honrao, the tough glaive who leads, and he is very much a stoic style older general, closer to back half of midlife, and he has rugged scars all over his body, he has facial hair unkept, and he is at peace. And he's a very stoic, quiet general who consistently talks and helps people, but is very quiet in how he does it. And he has actually been to this plaza before for award ceremonies that's happened when he served back in the time, and it's been one of his goals to go back there because the peace that you find in this area is just unmatched. And just he had an opportunity to come back and see it, and he took it without any hesitation or any questioning as to why he was invited in.
Very good. And how about our Jack, our charming Jack? Dubois.
Dubois is a very scandalous and swashbuckling type who is probably only respected because of the money and political power that he throws around. Um, when he comes around you, your senses are assaulted by a musky cologne that always uh, permeates around him. Atop of his head, he has a large floppy hat with a feather of some sort um, hanging back, and he probably didn't actually get invited here originally, um, but he made a few deals and heard that other important people would be here, so obviously he should be here, and kind of weaseled his way into an invitation through some borrowed favors and such.
Excellent. So that leaves us with our final character, who's going to be as much of a surprise to me as the GM as he is to the viewers. I'm going to turn it over to Sal to introduce his character.
Okay, I will be playing Gable, a nano. He's it's difficult to tell what his age is. He's definitely not a younger man, but he's fairly seasoned. Pretty unshaven face, pretty dirty. Doesn't concern himself too much with dressing well. He's got he's kind of unkempt, tangled matted dreadlocks pulled back and are roped behind his head, and he's got somewhat of an addictive personality in the sense that he's always looking to seek new knowledge. So this is the reason why he's at the Crystal Rose Gardens, to learn new things, meet new people, and pretty much take on any kind of new experiences that he can possibly seek out.
And may I ask this nano, what is his what does he do? As in his descriptor, the noun, the adjective, and the verb.
I have him as a drifter, kind of a traveling man. In his earlier, younger days, he probably was some kind of military man. Kind of went off on his own to seek out new knowledge, and he's at this point he's kind of doing his own things, not really looking to settle at any particular city at this time.
So, by way of the character's descriptor, would you be happy to go with stealthy from the book? On page 50.
Sure.
If you haven't defined anything so far. So, someone who's stealthy, and let's see. If you're a drifter and lives in the wilderness.
Sounds good to me.
Okay, so you will need to look this up in the book, Sal, to give yourself the requisite bonuses to your character, but stealthy is found on page 50, lives in the wilderness is found on page 67. As a tier 1 character, it's not going to make a huge amount of difference in terms of your statistics, but it can give you various pushes towards playing your character in a certain way. Now, what I will do while you're looking that up is roll up your ciphers so that you're on the same page as everyone else.
Okay.
And while you're noting down what those descriptors and your focus actually means in terms of your character stats, I'll introduce the game with the other 2 characters, and then you come in once you've got your character completely finalized. So your cipher is... Oh, okay. Your cipher is a detonation. I was wondering if anyone was going to get something like this. You have got a wristband projector, which is a level 6 wristband projector. It basically throws an explosive burst, which blinds everyone for 1 minute. It's a flash detonation.
Okay.
So when you use it, given that it's attached to your wrist, you're probably going to want to close your eyes because it looks like it's a short-range weapon. So your other cipher is a vocal translator, which pretty much does exactly what it sounds like. It will translate other languages. Translates everything said by the user into a language that anyone can understand for 28 hours. So it translates your language. It is in the form of a headband, and it's a level 2 cipher. So make sure you're noting these.
Yes.
And the final cipher, 91, is a temporal viewer. The temporal viewer is a level 8 cipher. It's a complex device, which means you've got no easy way of wielding it, no way of wearing it. Imagine, if you will, a great ornamental biomechanical orb with bits sticking out of it at odd junctures, rods, dials, weird, strange structures, and it's just too heavy for you to carry comfortably. You can't put it in a satchel easily, you can't wear it or anything like that. Because it's a complex device, basically, this is the kind of thing you're going to almost constantly have under your arm if you want access to it. But that's because it's powerful. Essentially, what it does is display moving images and sound up to 10 minutes in length, depicting events that occurred at the current location up to 1 year prior. The user specifies the time period shown by the viewer. So that's actually quite useful. You can basically have up to 10 minutes of the past, and when in the past is up to you.
Okay.
Yeah, does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay then, so the final stage is oddity. Your oddity is... this might be useful against the around the Jack if he's as slimy as I'm imagining. An egg-shaped device that temporarily negates all odor within 3 feet. Or just under a meter. So that is what you've got, a sort of Febreze or odorator.
Okay.
Okay then, so I'll leave you to carry on. I don't know if your camera is working, by the way, Sal, but right now, for me, it's only showing a static image. So
Yeah, I'm having trouble with the camera.
Yeah, that's fine. We can still hear your voice.
Okay.
But I will now set the scene. So once again, if everyone can mute until you are in the scene. Again, imagine a city where the dominant form of transport is dirigible. Imagine that same city lined with spires that pierce the sky. Imagine how a great river cuts through it with bridges that line every 200 feet or so with buildings stacked atop it. Each of these buildings has great iron spikes jutting from the roofs to act as mooring points for people's dirigibles. Some people fly around in great oval airships. Only the richest have access to those, or the most, well, those who can curry favor with those in power. There are also the hot air balloons that we see, well, not every day, but with more propensity in our world. They are more the recourse to the common man and the basket, the balloon above. But all occupy the skies. There are laws in Chi that say that no airships are allowed to make transit at night, simply because they'd all crash into one another. There's so many out there in this city. And fortunately for us, it is a bright summer's day at the time this game starts. Draeolus is somewhat blessed by a habitually stable environment when compared to other locations in the Ninth World. It very rarely does something odd like rain, blood, or the clouds don't often turn purple. Fire doesn't tend to fill the sky. And there aren't odd bursts of snow interspersed with blazing heat. In brief, it's a temperate climate. A nice, cool, steady breeze fills the air. Perhaps that's why they've all felt so comfortable in Chi and Draeolus in building these ships that are arguably quite fragile in which to transport themselves. And also possibly why most other countries do not have them. As pointed out, the dirigibles in Draeolus very rarely leave the borders of the country because there's just nowhere to moor them elsewhere. No other city is really prepared for this kind of thing. And what's more, the wind speeds, the bizarre environmental effects of other nations can play havoc on someone in an airship, to put it mildly. But, as described earlier, this game starts in the Crystal Rose Gardens. The drone of the airships around is muted here. Indeed, the only sound is the occasional tweeting of a confused bird as it lands on a crystal rose, trying to get something to eat only to jam its beak into hard mineral and fly off somewhat indignant. The way the light shines above the sun in all its glory at noon, shining down above the Crystal Rose Garden, is wondrous to behold. The prismatic sphere that bursts across this Crystal Rose Garden, the lights of all colours that drench the inhabitants in all manner of colours and shades. It is no wonder this place is an exclusive haven for the rich and the entitled. The inhabitants of the garden today, as well as our three protagonists, are quite clearly the General Travonus Ull. General Travonus Ull is known for his great mask, bejeweled and drenched in tentacles and mandibles. No one knows his face beyond that, as is the case with the majority of the generals in Draeolus, but he is quite a sight to behold. Travonus is known for his legion's adeptness at fighting in rough terrain, in jungle environs. Few armies, legions of Draeolus leave the steadfast, but his does, going out into all manner of places in the beyond, resulting in them having something of a, what would the word be, infamous reputation as explorers and adventurers. He, however, is a grizzled old sort, having been the general for many, many years. Everyone knows his growling voice. He walks around, his hands behind his back, deep in contemplation. An Aeon priest sits on a stone bench, reading from a book, seemingly not paying any attention to the crystals or the other inhabitants of the garden. A well-dressed plutocrat does a similar circuit to the general, dressed in the finest of materials, roughly comparable to velvets and silks that no doubt make him incredibly warm. but he carries off quite happily his hat, inordinately tall and well decorated, his face tanned in only a way that someone who has the luxury of laying out in the sun can have. And finally, there is a guard. There is a solitary entrance and exit to the Crystal Rose Gardens. There are white walls that stretch 20 feet high, so surprising this place gets any sun at all, and an iron gate upon which stands a solitary guard. Whether that guard is here as a result of some favour or, well, as a punishment, no doubt some would be glad for the rest, others would see it as the most boring job they could possibly have. After all, nothing happens in the Crystal Rose Garden. It is a place of quietness and contemplation. We turn to the Duke and the Baron as they walk along side by side. We will, once the Nano is introduced, ascertain how the Nano knows these two as well. But first we will start with the Duke and the Baron, walking within the Crystal Rose Garden. Over to you, the players.
The Duke will walk in very much at peace and calming, just his eyes bewildered, looking, examining all the roses, trying to almost remember the scene that's before him, walking with carefree and gentleness that he very rarely does before, and turning over towards his friend, the Baron, he'll say, "What a beautiful piece we are at. I hope that we will keep it like this," with a gentle smile towards him.
The nations of our wonderful land will always stay as such. I don't see any difference today that I don't see every day. He kind of struts along beside the very stoic Duke, clasping his jeweled, emblazoned rapier on his hip, making sure that it stands parallel or perpendicular with his body, as he just kind of sways along, kind of enjoying the sights and any possible women that may be around.
Unfortunately, the garden at this time is entirely inhabited by rather ugly males. The two of you are approached by the General Trebonus, and at first it's difficult to read when a general is wearing a mask that stretches from the base of his neck to the top of his head, what his emotion is. And indeed, it would be interesting to find out what legion our Duke was once a general of, but I'll leave that entirely up to the player to decide. But it's difficult to tell whether he's going to stop, and then suddenly his gravelly voice bursts out in a surprising, "Isn't it a beautiful day? Is it not a wonder to behold this fabled place of peace?"
And in such great company too, huh?
General, what a pleasure it is to see you again and meet with you in such a beautiful piece, one that us very rarely know coming from combat. And I, being a part of the Legion of Destruction, I'm so used to constantly having to destroy and be around such just chaos. This piece is beautiful, and I love it.
You see his mask cocked to the side a little as he clearly eyes the Duke up and down. "Ah, yes, I remember you. You're the one who retired and joined the plutocrats. I understand you have a title now that is not military."
Yes, you would be correct, though it was very difficult for me to give up my position. I just found peace in life just so much more rewarding, and as a position in power.
More rewarding than the destruction of your enemies, so-called general of the Legion of Destruction. Do you know that your legion was disbanded in recent months? Its members spread wide across the other legions of Draeolus. Did you know that, or have you kept so out of events that this has passed you by? Perhaps you've spent a little too long in this garden.
You seem to caught me at a blind side. I was not aware of that, but the men would always say, without me they'd fall apart, and I appear that to be the truth yet again.
They did once say that hubris was the greatest failing of the General of Destruction, and it would appear that that was indeed sadly the case. Still, it is good to meet a fellow soldier, albeit an ex-one, in a place where we are not at each other's throats, at least not with blades. I see that your foppish friend has been permitted to bring in a weapon here.
Yes, I warned him of the consequences and that there wasn't a necessity to have a weapon in such a peaceful place, but he sees glamour and beauty in things that I do not. So if you want more knowledge, you need to ask him.
Surely you cannot leave your estate without your weapon and feel completely dressed.
And do you consider yourself completely dressed? He looks you up and down from the pantaloon, the tights, the pantaloons, the feathery hat.
Well, I may be a little overdressed, I do admit. But I don't want to embarrass anyone. I apologize for any ill done.
Not at all. This is not my garden, and the jewels on your hilt finely complement the crystal roses for whatever that is worth. Still, I am too easy to frustration and anger, and the reason I came here is to iron those kinks out, and I apologize if I let my temper get away with me. It is hard when you have spent 3 years out fighting the enemy, losing men and women, only to come back and find out Draeolus is now at peace. Communication is truly shocking in this world.
I was not aware that we were still at conflict with anyone. Why is it that you
No,
were out there for so
still in
long?
conflict. That is the problem, Duke Honral. That is the problem. We are not at war, which gives the generals time to wander around gardens of contemplation, when we should be commanding legions to their valiant death.
I see that you have allowed yourself to be encompassed in this. Sometimes enjoying peace is such a beautiful segment. Maybe you should offer it more, like you said. We're here to enjoy the garden with you, not to find peace.
Surely, my friend.
I would like for the Duke to attempt on a tier 4 difficulty, based on intellect, so you can, by all means, attempt to reduce the difficulty if you have an edge, if you want to apply effort, in trying to calm the general down, because he seems to be increasingly in need of a fight.
Yes, I will go ahead and use an effort, so 3 of my intellect to do that.
So just for any of those who aren't familiar with the rules of Numenera, you have a pool for your might, your speed, your agility. For your might, your agility, and your intellect, and you can reduce the difficulty of a task by applying effort or by being assisted by someone else. So a tier 4 difficulty, typically you need to roll a 12 or above on a d20. Although if you apply effort, which costs 3 pool as a standard from whichever pool I specified, which was intellect in this point, reduces the difficulty target number to 9. It becomes a tier 3 difficulty. Now, if the Baron were assisting, and by all means I will allow that if you want to say anything pithy that you think would calm this general down, you can assist and reduce the difficulty further, so the Duke only needs to roll a 6 or above.
I'll do a solid for him. Honestly, General, you can't hope to enjoy the darkness and the chaos that is war without the contrast of the light. You need to experience both so that when you go back to battle, you can fully embrace it to the full degree.
Okay, I'll allow it. In this case, Duke, you need to roll a 6 or above.
I do have a question. Because I'm a leader, my skills, I'm trained in all social interactions. Would this count to that also?
Excellent. Okay, 3 or above then. So that is the only way you can reduce the difficulty by about 3, unless you're skilled, I think, because then you could reduce it by 4. But let's not go that far. So the difficulty is now a tier 1 difficulty, 3 or above, please. If you fail this now, I'll laugh. And you'll deserve it.
And an 11.
11? Okay, you're fine. The general sighs. He sort of practices his breathing. Nod. You are correct. I need to focus on the flowers and calm myself. Thank you. Cooler heads prevail. He walks beyond you. Now, our Nano, at this point, is just coming to the gate of the garden. Our Nano will actually know the 2 of you, and as soon as he joins the 2 of you, we will be able to ascertain how that is the case, and how all 3 of you know each other through a wonderful, oh, I remember you, from kind of scene. So the Nano is currently being obstructed by the guard. Don't know who you are, but I don't see your name on this list here. Who are you? What's your name? I don't see your face. I don't see anything that resembles a man decked in foliage and stinking like, the wilderness.
I am Gable is the name. I should be on the list here. I'm a frequent here at this plaza.
Gable, you say?
Yes.
Gable. Are you an Aeon priest?
I am not an Aeon priest.
No, it doesn't say you're an Aeon priest either. Well, you can see through the gate, through the holes, this place is pretty busy right now. There's a lot of people. We wouldn't want any of the crystal roses getting damaged now, would we?
Absolutely not.
So, as I can't see your name on the list, Mr. Gable, sir, and you're not dressed like a member of the plutocrats, you're not dressed like a general, and you're certainly not dressed like an Aeon priest, and you certainly don't smell like one, why should I let you in?
While I'm standing here, I see the Duke and his companion here. So, do they recognize me as I approach?
They will recognize you through the gaps in the iron gate, yes.
The Baron is pretending as if he doesn't recognize you, even though it's obvious that he made eye contact and then darted his glance away towards the Duke.
I will mildly roll my eyes and then calmly walk over towards the guard. Yes, this is Gable. He served me very well in our conflicts in past. I'm glad to see that you found the pleasures of a bath once you were here. If you wouldn't mind, I would love it if you'd allow my acquaintance in.
Would you? Listen, I've got strict orders that I'm only allowed, aside from myself, 4 people in this plaza at any one time. During the middle of the day, it gets very hot. People pass out. We don't want them falling on any of the flower beds, breaking any crystals. You know that the Aeon priest and the Amber Papacy finds these crystal roses very important. If one of you were to... He's making up all kinds of bullshit. Basically, he's being as obstructive as possible. Clearly, this isn't a position he wanted. He doesn't get to throw his authority, such as it is, around very often. He's just making excuses. Look, someone's got to leave before this guy, this Gable, can come in. He doesn't look military to me, Duke. Your dukiness, sir. How do I know he's not just a friend who's, I don't know. You know what the rules are like. You know what the military's like. I can't just go around breaking rules for friends.
Yes, I understand that completely, but when a superior gives a command, I don't believe it necessary to say no. Do you? And I'll kind of give him a stern look.
I'm going to... He actually stands up straighter at that point, and you hear him mutter, "You stopped being my superior when you took off the uniform." I'll let you roll. This one's actually going to be a tier 5 difficulty. So that means you need to roll a 15 or above. By all means, again, you can expend effort, you can use your skill, and the Nano can attempt to assist you, providing being one with the wilderness doesn't apply penalties to his social rolls. Because if it does, it's probably not going to help much for him to assist you.
Unfortunately, the Baron is still averting his gaze, even though he is standing but 5 feet from me now.
Lives in the wilderness does not have a negative effect to social roles, but I believe possibly being a Nano does. So I will just quickly check.
There's any social bias?
No, I don't have it noted down, so that's absolutely fine. So, Gable, if you want to throw something in to reduce the quite high difficulty, by all means you can do so. Or you can rely entirely on the expertise and wherewithal of your ex-general friend.
So you said I can take 2 or 3 to
you won't be able to apply effort, but basically if you assist in this role, which means you're basically going to have to say something to persuade the guard that this is a good idea, we will reduce the difficulty for the Duke's role, his second role, by a tier of 1.
Okay. I mentioned to him that I've traveled with one of his infantry in the past. I basically say a name. I throw out a couple names out there to see if he recognizes them. And I've been a guide out in the wilderness for them. I've scouted for them, and surely you must remember. You must have gotten word of my expertise out in the woods.
Well, that kind of wild card skill use is the kind of thing that really warrants a GM intrusion, for which I need some kind of siren for whenever I use it. A GM intrusion, for those who don't know, is when I decide to interrupt play, essentially, with something bad is about to happen. I'm quite happy for all characters to start with 1 experience point, which allows you to spend the experience point and deflect my GM intrusion, but you can only do that once. After that point, you either have to accept the GM intrusion and the 2 XP that comes along with it, one of which you have to give to another player. that experience point can then be used for re-rolls or for deflecting future GM intrusions. So the GM intrusion I'm throwing at you, Gable, is that this guard doesn't recognize either of the names that you're throwing at him, calls your bluff, and increases the difficulty for the Duke by 1 tier. So if you accept that GM intrusion, you gain 2 XP. You have to give 1 of them to someone else.
I'll accept it.
All right. How mercenary everyone becomes when experience is on the line. And who are you going to give the second experience point to?
What was that? I didn't catch that. It kind of.
Who are you going to give the second experience point to? Basically, you have 1, and you get to give another 1 to one of the other players.
To the Duke. Who's
The Duke.
speaking?
Okay, so it's worth recording. Gable currently has 2 XP. He started with 1. The Baron has 1. The Duke has 2. So, turning back to the Duke, the tier of difficulty is actually increased by 1 now. So, as a general rule, he'd have to roll 18 or above. Duke, what are you doing? Are you just going to roll straight, or are you going to try and reduce that difficulty?
Yes, I still have the all social interaction skill, so that should drop it by 1, correct?
Yeah, so it's 15 or above.
And then I will use some more intellect. I am very low on intellect after this. You lower it 1 more to get my friend in here. And
All right, then 12 or above.
See how it goes.
What a good man.
And I got a 4.
Oh, okay. Well, that's less good than you'd hope. Cody, but
That's not good.
just so you're aware, your camera appears to have gone off, at least for me. Can anyone else see it?
It's frozen.
It's frozen, yeah. So you may want to restart your camera at the very least. The guard he doesn't fold his arms. He grabs his spear, pretty much slams it down on the flagstones and says, "You're not coming in." And he looks at the Duke and says, "And you're lucky I don't kick you out by authority of the Draeolus legions." It's at this point that all 3 of you, one of you on one side of the gate, on the outside of the plaza, the Baron pretty much in the centre of the Rose Gardens around this time, and the Duke on the interior of the gate, you start to hear a loud drone, noise, which isn't uncommon in Chi, of course, because there's airships all over the place. Except the shadow that starts falling over the Crystal Rose Gardens incrementally quite clearly implies, as you all can't help but look up, and this includes the guard, the Aeon Priest that's there, the plutocrat, the general, everyone looks up. There is an airship that's very, very close. In fact, yes, it is just flying slightly over half of the Crystal Rose Garden, which is, of course, verboten. This dirigible is white in colour, but marked with dark green chevrons across it. You see, from the underbelly, one of the crew compartments, a door open. It's about, let's say, probably about 150 feet up, so it's quite high up, but you can just make out a figure opening a door and hurling something out towards the Crystal Rose Gardens, where, of course, you are all stood. There's a crash as it hits the bed of roses, one of the beds of roses. It appears to be a brown, like Hessian sack, a burlap sack. What happens next happens within seconds. There's a vibrating from the burlap sack. It's just buzzing furiously. It's starting to shake. It's starting to tremor furiously. The guard points at the Duke, and then Gable says, "You wait here. You wait right here." and he strides over to the burlap sack, opens it up, at which point 3 brass in colour, gold in colour cubes fly out and spin dramatically, quickly, making a high-pitched whistling, ear-piercing noise. All of you, I would like all of you to roll a d20. You are all going to need to get a 12 or above on a might-based roll. So bear in mind you can apply effort to reduce difficulty unless you've already rolled, Baron. And yeah, you're looking to all get 12 or above because of the ear-piercing, shrill noise that is currently permeating the entire Crystal Rose Garden.
Okay, I have might defense, so would that change the difficulty for this roll?
Yeah, I'm happy for your difficulty to be reduced to 9.
Perfect, and I rolled an 11.
Excellent. So that's a success. And Baron, you also rolled an 11, I think, didn't you? Yeah.
Yes, but I don't have.
You didn't reduce the difficulty, however, so you failed. And Gable, obviously we can't see what you're going to roll, so we'll have to take your word for it.
I rolled a natural 15.
Okay, so you're okay. Both of you then, your first glance is to the Baron Dubois as his hands go up to his ears that you can see are starting to gush blood. This isn't a light trickle, there is a poof as eardrums burst and he collapses to the ground, clutching his ears. It's worse for the guard, the Aeon Priest, who is just getting up to investigate as well, and the plutocrat that was standing nearby. The guard starts to vibrate as well, rapidly. He just shakes on the spot. And then he's still, and then he sloughs into bits. A similar thing happens to the plutocrat, except only from about the knees up in a diagonal fashion. The vibrations, the sound, the piercing noise, literally shakes their molecules apart. The Aeon Priest collapses with a colossal hemorrhage as blood doesn't just pour out of his nose, but also, well, not just his ears, but also his nose and mouth, and he collapses to the ground. The General does likewise, but fortunately for Gable and the Duke, at any rate, because they're so far away, maybe, and because they put their hands to their ears before anyone else and just dive to the ground, the noise doesn't affect them so badly that they can't hear the General shriek with pain as he collapses, along with the Baron doing similar. The 3 vibrating brass cubes then detonate in a burst of sonic energy, and the Crystal Rose Garden just shatters. Every rose that is there just breaks into tiny crystal pieces. Those of you who can still hear the roar of engine, the roar of hot air. Again, casting upwards, the airship drifting away at speed, as much speed as an airship can produce. You are left all partly deafened, if not completely for the time being, in a garden filled with blood and shattered roses. At least you can get in now, Gable.
Being the man the Baron is, he's at this part probably clenching as much of his head as he can and like crawling towards the Duke for safety. On the outside, he's very pompous and very confident, but with the rupturing of his eardrums, he's dropped the facade and is crawling to safety.
With great anger, I will stand up and let out a mild cry for help, for other guards, or for people to come, and then I will rush over to the Baron to ensure that he's able to see the state that he's in, and then as soon as I can tell that he's still conscious, I'll rush over to the general to do the same to see the state that the general is in.
What does Gable do?
I tell the Baron a little dirt on your clothes won't hurt, and I help him up.
If he could hear you, he'd probably hit you.
Unfortunately, I can't hear things, so that's great. It's great. It's like, oh, he's so helpful.
The general then, Duke, is still wailing and moaning. He is clearly in a great amount of pain, and he clutches onto his mask for dear life. He's not letting you remove it, so you can examine how badly injured he is.
I'll put my hand up.
No, he grabs you by the forearm as you put your hand down on him, and he says, You must find whoever was piloting that thing. You must bring them to justice for Driolis. They have destroyed the most important plaza in our city. This act of terrorism cannot go unpunished.
Oh,
go ahead.
With a tear running down my eyes from the destruction, I will nod my head in silent terror from what's happened. Yes, General, of course. Nothing of this magnitude will ever be allowed to go without punishment. We'll find them and bring them to due justice.
Is the Zeppelin or airship above us still just flying away, or?
It is indeed flying away across the city. It immediately becomes difficult to tell where, because there are just so many airships in the sky in this place, and because of the height of the walls of this plaza, you can't even see for that great a distance. It is just passing out of sight, and you know that it's not easy for an airship to move away at speed in a place like this. They can't ascend to too high a height because the iron cables that dangle from their bases would actually disrupt all the other airships. So, and he doesn't appear to be doing that. He appears to essentially be camouflaging himself among the rest of his number, or her number, and just disappearing out of sight. It could well be, judging by his direction as you look up, deafened as you are, you can still tell north from south and east from west. He appears to be heading north across the city.
Is the airship within 50 feet, or is it a
Oh,
degree
no, it's farther away than that.
farther away? Okay.
Gable kind of mumbles under his breath. I seem to remember I wasn't welcomed in the Crystal Garden, but being that the Duke is on board with assisting, I have my loyalties to the Duke. So whatever he decides we do, I'm on board.
Thank you so much, dear Gable, for your plea to help. Immediately, we must find actions. We must report what has happened, and we must go after them ourselves if no other justice can be found. Baron, will you join us? I know this is not your regular escapade, but I would appreciate your assistance.
I'm just going to say that the Baron is slowly beginning to recover his hearing, at least to a minor degree. Basically, any roles that are going to be based around listening for things or quick reactions are going to be at a tier higher difficulty than usual, at least until you meet up with someone who can heal or can otherwise get your ears treated.
The Baron Dubois will reach down and kind of touch at a piece of blood that is soaked part of his outfit, and he'll very stoically look at it for a few moments as he'll let go of the Gable and look at his hand as if it's equally filthy, Perhaps we should clean up and then we can get down to business.
Of course, my dear Baron. Issues like this are nothing to a foul uniform. We must get on this immediately.
The Baron,
My dear friend,
the general from the ground, bellows at you. What are you three civilians waiting for? Go! Leave this place. I will recover soon and see if there are any other survivors. Go! Find the Zeppelin, find the pilot, find who owns that thing. Do what you can to bring him to justice. For the Baron, you just heard the general going wah 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 wah. For the other two of you, his voice was quite clear.
you guys heard the general. We move out now. Any supplies that we need to pick up, we will do so. If that means a new outfit for the Baron, then so be it. But I personally am not armed for conflict either, so going and getting in proper attire is necessary. Do you have anything, dear Gabriel, that we need to pick up?
I probably would be any kind of supplies, any kind of travel supplies would be fine. Any kind of rations, that sort of thing. I don't really. I'm good with the attire that that's currently on my back.
Perfect, very well. I have some of that at my housing, so we'll go there and then we'll meet up with the Baron and leave as soon as possible. Do you hear that, Baron?
Yes. One of my mentions can fetch me some new attire that's prepared for adventurous. I'll just I'll motion. It looks like I'm motioning to someone who isn't there, and I'll. We gotta be quick. It went that way.
You leave the plaza, and as you are intending on kitting yourselves out first, you make your way out of the plaza, and the first thing that greets you, of course, is the pearlescent cathedral, ruled over by the librarians of the Aeon priesthood. Your residences are in differing locations, but if the Baron is happy to pick some attire up en route to the Duke's manse, then that would see you all in the same direction. Is the Baron happy to do that?
Hasty situations call for hasty attire.
In that case, DM Intrusion says that you're so vain that you won't do but meet your own tailor or go home and adorn your own clothing. So you can reject that by spending your experience point, or you can take 2 experience points by splitting the party. Why would I do this to myself?
Why would I do? Why would I split? On second thought, I've had a rough day, and I'm going to punish myself by letting them win and letting them tell me what I can wear and what I can't wear.
Excellent. So you are rejecting my GM Intrusion.
Is the intrusion to split the party?
Yeah. The intrusion was for you to go home and prevaricate and waste precious time, basically.
Yes, I'll waste all the time I need.
Oh, okay. Well, in that case, yeah, gain the experience point, because you are going home whilst the Nano and the Glaive are both heading to the Glaive's manse, where they've told you to come and meet.
Can I spend an experience to make the intrusion go away, represented by the general hastily putting his arm around the Baron, saying, "This is not a matter of beauty, this is a matter of security," and rushing off with him?
You can manhandle him. I won't allow you to spend an experience point to do it. But well, Baron, you have gained 2 experience. You can give 1 to someone else.
I'll give 1 to Gable. Even though he's disgusting, he did help me up also.
That's fine. Which means the Duke has got to decide how you're going to manhandle Dubois and prevent him from actually doing this. You can see him turning on his heel and heading towards his own house, which is on the other side of the city.
I a motion towards him and then shake my head, deciding that conflict at this time probably would not lead to much more. And dealing with the Baron, it's easier to let him deal with his own affairs and go over to my estate and see if we can.
Your audio just cut out there, I'm afraid, Duke. So you may need to say what you were saying again. That you just said Gable and yourself are heading over to your own estates
to try and research as much as we can on any terrorists or any kind of activity that could be occurring, or finding any maps potentially of the northern side of the city to help us to where they could have docked or where they could have landed.
Okay. All right then. Well, we'll deal with the Baron heading home first in order to get changed. The Baron actually cuts a very stealthy figure despite his usual panache as he tries to make his way through the city because, after all, he is covered in blood. It isn't a good colour on anyone, especially not a charming Jack. So he has to take a few back alleys, a few side roads, just slowing his transit down even further. After all, you did accept the GM intrusion. A few people catch sight of you and recoil, from nobles down to peasants. No one likes to see someone with dried blood all over their shoulders and sleeves. Eventually, about an hour later, you finally reach your chateau, right on the southern side of the city. Yep, it was a decent GM intrusion. You're as far away as you possibly could be from the plot right now. At which point you enter. Your servants, of which you have a handful, are alarmed. Are you well? Are you well, sir? Do you need tending?
Some people cannot live to the same standards as we. I need cleaned.
But what about your injuries? Are you more concerned with your clothing than you are about your health?
You don't understand. A place of great elegance and social maneuvering has been compromised this evening, and I need to feel fresh. Please make me feel fresh.
Very good, sir. Your butler rushes off. One of your maids doing the same. You have a tailor in-house, of course, who always stays with you. And he says, I think to compliment the blood that is already staining your skin, and it would take far too long, and your hair. Let us not wash it out. I have an outfit that would complement that color perfectly. It has wide shoulder pads. They billow. They will fill with the wind. You will look magnifique, my Baron. He starts strapping you in, dressing you up. I'm actually making the blood that's sticking to your hair look almost intentional. You are quite the picture, my Baron, sir. You could charm any psychopath or maniac.
The northern steadfast has nothing on my fashion. We shall change the status quo.
And do not forget your rapier, sir.
Oh, yes, quite.
Are you off for a high adventure?
I live in high adventure.
He slaps his thigh. Then off you go, Baron, sir. I will make you a fine new outfit, and throw this one to the dogs. It is not fit for the peasants now that it is stained with your blood.
do it with honor. And with that, I'll start strutting out to hopefully get walking around the town. When you live in a city full of airships, is probably pretty low class. So I'll try to find some sort of transport, whatever that may be, as long as I don't have to walk. That's really.
There are fast-moving dirigibles that are pretty much exactly what you're looking for. They're low-flying, fast-moving, and they cut dangerously close to roofs. They adjunct at various public buildings, allowing people off. So in a sense, they're not dissimilar to a bus, but it's still you still have to be fairly wealthy, or at the very least a merchant, to be able to transport yourself on these. The peasants have to walk, as you would imagine. So, in fact, your walk to your manse, your chateau, was probably the first time you've had to do that in quite a while.
It was very strenuous.
Yeah, finding the way was quite difficult. So, meanwhile, back at the Duke's manse, where you are currently looking, you are currently adorning yourself with various equipment that you may feel you require. I'm going to allow you anything that you feel is appropriate in the realms of believability. So what is the glaive actually looking to equip himself with?
He is looking to equip him with his basic war attire that he used to wear, which consists of light armor of leather jerkin with a cloak overtaking him. And on his arm itself, he has a light blade, which is a forearm blade strapped to his forearm with a heavy bladed weapon in the form of a greatsword strapped to his back with a hammer tied to his waist.
Okay, so he's certainly equipped for battle, dusting off the old military uniform, ready to go for war for Draeolus once again. And
yes, exactly.
And how about our Nano, who I will permit, given that you aren't stopping in any markets, because that would probably be as inefficient as the Baron's little journey, you can pick equipment up from the Duke's manse, given that you know the Duke, and by all means you can specify what he has at his manse, again within the realms of believability. So what is it that you're after, Nano?
Okay, so more or less, I'm pretty much prepared. I've got, the clothing on my back. I've got a dagger, the books that I need. I'm pretty much. The only thing I would probably need would be any kind of rations for this journey.
The Duke's staff, as soon as you enter and explain that you may be travelling, go about preparing you some salted shield and other chopped vegetables that have been dried and tightly wrapped, so they are good for a journey. They'll last you a few days at the very least. And you could make them last longer. You've learned to live off of roots and leaves.
Very well.
So the Duke, you are in your war room and you are attempting to find out information regarding terrorists, regarding the map, well, the city of Chi and perhaps the nation of Draeolus. Is that correct?
Yes, and more particularly, I'm looking for any signs of the green chevron that were on the ship when it dropped, and just looking up to see if I can find any terrorist group or any known member in the city that carries that kind of crest.
Okay, I'm going to ask you to do an intellect. Tier is only 9. So tier is only 3, rather, difficulty 9.
Okay. Yeah. Then I'll just roll straight. I won't use any kind of anything for it.
Okay.
And it was a 14.
14. Okay, you're not able to determine that there's a terrorist group that uses this mark. Certainly Draeolus has lots of enemies. Iskabal to the south, the Sea Kingdom of Garn to the north, Navarine. All of your national neighbours could stand to take Draeolus down a peg or two. But this kind of attack is a bit too flagrant. It seems to you more the actions of a fringe group or individual than a declaration of war, you know? So you can't find anything that's identifiable in terms of the airship, But you do know, of course, that there is the Guild of Dirigible Manufacturers who keep a record, a catalogue even, of every single airship design in Dryolis. So if you can gain an audience with them, you could find out, although you know that's no easy thing. And it could waste precious time. So that is a possible route that you could follow, but that is up to you.
Okay, and what kind of docking stations would there be on the north side of the city? I want to look up where potentially the airship went to after the attack.
Okay, I'm not going to make you roll for that. It's easy enough to look at a map that you'll have. The map tells you that north of where you are is, of course, the wide river, and the river that cuts through Chi is lined with bridges that are adorned with houses stacked atop each other in marketplaces. Further north is the entire trading district, markets, bazaars, some of which are born on airships, some of which are on the land. And north of that, you have the vast city walls, the watchtowers, and then the great fields that ultimately would head towards the Sea Kingdom of Garm. In terms of docking stations and refueling stations, there are, frankly, many. There are a hell of a lot, simply due to the fact that this is the prime mode of transportation. It could be anything from a private individual's house with a mooring hook on the roof to a trading consortium's warehouses. To be honest, there's far too many to list north of where you are. You're pretty much dead in the center of the city.
Okay, and if time is permitting before the Baron shows up, the last thing I'd like to look up is any information on the weapons that were used in the garden, that were used against us or dropped against us.
Okay, I'm guessing as a glaive you don't have Numenera training, do you?
No, I do not.
No, well, this is the kind of thing. In fact, I will quite happily say that as the Nano is with you, Gable can research this with you. In fact, Gable can lead the research and you can assist him.
Yes, that'd be much better.
Yeah. So, Gable, what you need to do is roll a d20. Don't do it yet. This is going to be an intellect check. As a general rule, the difficulty of this would be a tier 5, so you'd be looking for 15s or above. With your Numenera training, you can reduce it to a tier 4 difficulty, which makes it a difficulty of 12. If you want, Gable, you can also apply Pool from your intellect, which will reduce the difficulty to 9, tier 3, and with an assist from the glaive, you can reduce it to a tier 2, so difficulty of 6. Do you want to do that?
Yes, I believe that's a good
In that case, I will ask you to deduct the relevant pool from your intellect, which, as you'll probably have an edge in intellect, will probably be 2, rather than from normal 3. And then I'm going to ask you to roll a 20-sided die and see whether you can get 6 or above.
14.
Wait, lots of 14s in this session. You do recognize what the artifact was, or the ciphers were. They are an auditory destructive device known as a Gi-Fanx. They are constructed primarily by Aeon priests, in fact, who are either members of the Amber Papacy or sort of third parties attached to the Amber Papacy. They use them to clear out underground chambers filled with critters. They use them to, well, deafen their opponents, quite clearly, or cause, damage to the architecture of a building. It's very odd, though, for someone to use more than one at once because of how destructive they actually are. If you apply more than about 2, you're likely to disturb the molecules making up someone's body. Oh, look, that's what happened. So there was clearly no intention for subtlety in this attack. They clearly intended to make all of the destruction they wrought, whether that was the complete annihilation of the Crystal Rose Garden or the death of one of the people within it.
This is very intriguing that the priests of Aeon would be the ones that use this the most. Gable, where would you like our time to be spent? Searching for the warehouse, investigating potentially in the priests themselves, or going to the place where it's all cataloged, where all the airships are at? What do you think would be our best time spent?
I would probably suggest going investigating the Aeon priests further.
Yes, I agree. I think that'd be the best way to figure out where and why so many, because as you said, only one or two are usually used, yet it was multiple of these were dropped upon us. And at such time with the general there, I'm curious as to why the Aeon equipment would be left around so carelessly, if not used purposely.
It's at this point that the Baron arrives in his dapper new threads. He probably jumps in through the door like Lord Flashheart.
Gentlemen, gentlemen, I see you're well.
Yes, we were able to figure out a plan in your absence. If you are willing, we're going to go and talk to the priests of Aeon because of findings from our dear friend Gable telling us that that's where he believes that they were found and made, and that the priests of Aeon have most of those little tools that you love so much.
Yes, bookwork was never quite my forte, so I'm glad that Gable could be of some use. Lead the way.
So then I guess
No, sorry, you carry on.
I was gonna say, yeah, we would head in the direction of where the Aeon priests would be.
Well, like the Vatican City, which is basically what the Amber Papacy have in the middle of Chi, there's a lot of Aeon priests. However, the place with which you're most familiar is actually very close to the Crystal Rose Garden, being the pearlescent cathedral where the collegiate are housed, as many of the lecturers there and professors will train up-and-coming Aeon priests in the use of ciphers and artifacts in a safe and secure environment. I'm going to say that the Baron, I'm going to actually give you a connection here, had formerly had a relationship with one of the priests there. And you can specify whether that character is male, female, or any other gender. Or indeed human Vargellan or any other race. But this person is an Aeon priest who you could perhaps curry favour with. So, Baron, who is your contact in the Amber Collegiate?
We'll say that it is Lady. We'll say Lady Antoinette, and um, as I get word that we're going to the Aeon Priest, I'll um. So where to exactly, Gable? The uh, the pearly cathedral, I hope not.
That is absolutely, that's correct.
I hope they've forgotten my last escapade there. The the elders don't seem too keen of people with pants around their ankles, if you know what I'm saying. But we, I may be able to make some ends meet and pull some favor with a lass who resides there.
As you approach the pearlescent cathedral, as well as it being a building that seems to almost be constructed entirely from pearl, hence its name, which is an architectural oddity all of its own, the spokes and spikes that protrude from it around 10 floors up have 4 airships moored at each corner of the tower before it becomes a spire. These blimps are marked in the same colour as the collegiate, the pearl with a different nose cone. So one is red, one is blue, one is black, one is yellow, which are the property of the high professors, the Lady Antoinette being one of them. You arrive in the grand reception of the cathedral, where Aeon priests are hard at work, ferrying papers back and forth, practicing light esoteries for each other's amusement. You can see students there, you can see elders there. There seems to be a lot of hustle and bustle around, and you wouldn't be surprised if it's somewhat to do with what's actually just happened out in the Crystal Rose Garden. The essentially secretary, I suppose, the Aeon priest who admits students and guests, stands as he sees the Duke, the Baron, and Gable approaching. He gives a stiff nod, brushing off his pearl robes. Sirs, how can I help you today?
Hello, Father. I
GM intrusion, he recognizes the Baron as soon as he starts speaking. Do you accept that?
I would like to try to counter that with my XP to say that actually I'm wearing disguise.
Yeah, alright, you can give me your experience point back, and he doesn't recognize you, which means this path of investigation has not been abruptly cut off.
I can see it in his eyes as he starts speaking, and I will quickly is the dear Lady Antoinette here today, sir?
Your disguise could fool even the most perceptive of individuals. He narrows his eyes, thinking he recognizes you, shakes his head. No, that fool wouldn't be stupid enough to return here while this place is on high alert. The Lady Antoinette has not interrupted her class. She is still running lessons for the students. But I'm sure she would... well, if you wait outside the room, she will see you after. There cannot be much longer left to it.
Yes, as a old and very intimate friend of hers, I believe.
His eyes widen.
I think I'll wait outside.
And do you all head to to the class that he directs you toward?
Yes. I'll follow, but standing behind the Duke and Gable, trying to kind of slouch and hide my face.
Cloak wrapped around you like like some wizened ghoul or other. You pass voluminous libraries filled with these Aeon priests. It's not often that you actually enter the papacy's quarters, but it's always impressive whenever you do. Even to those who aren't that interested in book learning, it's still awe-inspiring to see the sheer volume of works that are present here. You see a bright flash as a cipher goes off, and a bunch of Aeon priests hustle to put out a quick fire. And within The next few minutes, you're outside of the classroom, sat on 3 chairs that are far too small for the 3 of you, as you can hear the voice of Lady Antoinette talking to her class inside about how to best deal with detonation ciphers in enclosed spaces.
Gable's gonna kind of peer through the door and try to get a free lecture, kind of get a little bit of learnings here, as he's discreetly kind of trying to get as much information as he can possibly get from Lady Antoinette.
Okay. Obviously, the Baron can't pick up on any of this because he's still half deaf. But Gable, you can actually pick up on what she's talking about. She seems to be talking about ciphers that to you sound incredibly aggressive for the Amber Papacy. Not that they are against using offensive ciphers by any stretch, as offensive Numenera, but it doesn't seem the sort of thing you would teach in class necessarily. She ends as you hear and see the effects of a grand electrical explosion on the stage, at which point she bows before the class who are sat there with their eyebrows and their fringes singed by an ozone blast. She says, "You are now all dismissed. Return here in the next 30 cycles, and we shall reprise our lesson. Get something to eat. We've got lots to learn today." They all get up, file out past you.
Impressed by her ability to handle technology really well, I kind of wink over to the Baron and say, "I see why you would have taken a liking to her."
She's taught me a thing or two.
I hope that you left this relationship in better repair than most, Baron. We need her assistance greatly.
I remember it fondly. I hope she does too.
Yes, yes. In a game of GM intrusions, how likely do you think that is? You enter the room. I haven't described her yet, so I shall now do so. The Lady Antoinette is a Vargellan. A Vargellan is not a human, although they are just as much a prime race in the Ninth World as a human has been. They've existed there for hundreds of thousands of years. A cross between lizard-like and fish-like, bright pink or purple of complexion, often bearing tails. This race is known for their ability to refocus their bodies depending on the needs at hand. They can essentially shift their muscle mass so that they can become more intelligent when required, more physically adept when required. What separates Lady Antoinette from all of that is the great metallic spine that emerges from the back of her neck, protruding and running down, coating her tail. She is clearly, in time since she has known the Baron, fused some steel with her flesh, because she is looking part cyborg. You didn't see that until she turned around to start rummaging around with her papers. So she doesn't see you enter, but she does hear the door go. Back so soon, the lesson doesn't start for another 30 cycles.
That is just the time I need.
She stands up straight and turns around. Well, I'd recognise that voice.
Well,
I can't even see it.
I would hope so. That it was quite an exciting night, and if you had forgotten, I would be so incredibly disappointed.
It may well have been an exciting night for you, Baron, but I remember being very disappointed by the end of it.
It's not nice when people come in and interrupt. that is not why I am here. We will discuss this maybe over coffee later. But
There'd be such a short discussion. I'm really not sure there'd be any point. Let's find out why have you brought your friends here?
I'll just motion over to Gable and the Duke.
I'll kind of look over towards Gable as if unsure why we really are here or what questions to ask.
Well, I'll head over by the Baron, and I'll applaud and to what I had witnessed earlier in her lecture, and I introduced myself as Gable, good friend of the Duke here, and I don't know if the Duke actually followed me in, but
Yes, I'll follow quietly behind.
I tell her that we, would like to speak in private on in regards to matters that occurred earlier this afternoon.
Well, we have 30 cycles in which for you to speak because I'm not putting off my class. Is this about the garden?
That is.
I'll
Correct.
raise my eye in alarm as to her knowing about it. I'll kind of look at her more.
Don't look so surprised, Duke. Your friend just remarked upon what happened this afternoon, and I haven't heard of anything else happen so close. All I'm wondering is why the three of you are asking me about it.
My dear lady, we were actually there when the attack took place, and the general asked that we find due justice for those that committed it, and knowing that the priests of Aeon deal with the types of equipment that were dropped into the garden, I was curious if we could find any aid from you.
When we found the general inside, he was passed out, and I believe he has yet to recover consciousness. So you are the first to come forward and say that they witnessed the attack. What exactly caused the destruction of the crystal roses? All we found, aside from mostly dissolved bodies, was an empty bag. An empty brown sack.
This vehicle is horrible. I'll motion towards Gabriel. You seem to be able to describe it better than I would, but there was a ship came over the gardens and dropped a sack that had strange equipment in it. If my friend here would be able to describe it with much more adequate.
Yes, I explained the details, like the technological details that I, had studied from my understanding to her, and I kind of seek her guidance, see what she knows about.
So what you are describing is a Gifanx, an audible detonation device.
Correct.
And as this is a device that is known to be used by Aeon priests, you are coming here to the cathedral to ask whether I know of anyone who wanted to destroy the Crystal Rose Garden? That seems a very, shall we say, upfront way of questioning.
Well, who would have access to such technology here at the cathedral?
Ah, well, that is an interesting question. We don't keep them here at the cathedral, but I do happen to know the Experimenters Guild of the Aeon Priests, those who like to run risks and trial new devices, have access to them. I believe they were attempting an attunement of Gifanx to make them less effective on, well, organic listening devices such as your human ears, and more impactful on artificial structures. I understand that's where all of them have been requisitioned to, and I don't think that guild is particularly large.
Is there a person in particular, someone in particular at the experimental guild that that you may know that you could reference or tell us, that we can seek out?
She seems quite. She seems to be getting a bit more clamped up and cagey around you. The fact that you're asking for specific members of the Amber Papacy. I am going to ask you to do another. It's going to be another intellect-based roll to see whether you can weasel the information out of her. A list of names, basically, or a location for where the experimental guilds are based. You're going to need to get a. I'm going to do another tier 5, so another 15 or higher. Again,
Okay.
by all means, you can expend effort to reduce difficulty.
Okay, I will do that.
And is anyone trying to assist with some charm or otherwise carousing language?
Yes, I'd like to step up and ask very touchingly, I'll say, the garden was such an honor to me, and I know to the city, and we just would love any sort of information we can get to end this misery and just bring justice to those who need it. I know this is asking a lot of you, but we really need as much information and help as we can. And I know we came to you right away because of your knowledge and your intellect.
With the with Gable's talk of Numenera and the specifics of what happened at the Rose Garden, the Baron has sat on top of a desk in the classroom and is kind of nodding his head as he's trying not to fall asleep. As he pretends to look very interested in what's going on.
Okay,
So-
you are now aiming for a difficulty threshold of 9, so it's a tier 3 difficulty. So Gable, you need 9 or above.
Okay. 17.
Oh! She closes her eyes, she nods. Very well. I will tell you, I will give you a list of the members of the Experimental Guild. There's only 4 of them who are currently practicing, and the location of where they were based, because it was such a good role. It is no great secret, although, well, we don't put it on public record. Anyone could find it out. She's basically trying to justify it to herself that she's about to give you the location of an experimental facility. Beneath the central bridge of Wide River, you can find the experimental facility. She scribbles down 4 names. The guild members should all be there as it's during the day, but these are the 4 that you're looking for. If anyone knows what's going on with Gifangs, they're the only people who should have access to them in this city. So that's all I can do for you, really. I can't give you an introduction or anything like that, and frankly, this has to stay between us. I did not tell you where they are based or who works there. But I will admit that your point about Gifangs being property and used by the Amber Papacy is of interest to me as well, given that's what you say was the cause.
This will stay between us as it always has.
She gives you a withering look.
And I look at the time.
I
I'll
think
shake my head. Yeah, I'll agree. I'll shake my head at the Baron and thank her so much for what she's done for us, and we'll ensure that justice is found.
Yeah, I let her know that we'll make haste with it. We don't want technology falling into the wrong hands. So once again I thank her for all of the information that she's given us.
She nods and says, "Now please leave my classroom. I have a lesson to prepare."
Very well. So I excuse myself and start, letting her go about business.
As the Baron swaggers his way out of the door, he'll turn sharply and tilt his head behind him and blow a kiss, and then promptly leave.
She will touch and shake her head. So, what's the group to do? Are you heading straight for this facility?
With the time of everyone being in there, I think it would be wise for us to speak to him as soon as possible, but going in not knowing much about what they actually are doing there is a little unsettling. What do you think would be the best move, Gable,
do
seeing how
do
you
any of
know the
us
most?
do any of us know any, like, the list that she provided, the names? Are we familiar with any of those names?
I will allow you all to roll a d20, and if any of you get a major success, or a 19 or a 20, then I will say yes. Certainly it's not in the game plan, but if you get a 19 or a 20, yeah.
I rolled a 5.
No for the Baron, another 11.
And I rolled a 4, so no luck.
No, you don't recognise any of the names, but that isn't that surprising. If they work as part of a semi-secret guild, they're probably not going to be terribly sociable people. Indeed, you didn't know if there were any structures on the underside of the central bridge. In fact, you're not even sure how there could be, as there's a river that flows beneath it.
That is true. How do you think we would get to such an area, Baron? You know the town the best. What would your opinion be?
Didn't you pick up that water breather from a merchant a few years back?
Yes, those.
I don't fancy a swim, but if I were to make a evil lair that I kept weapons of mass destruction, I would most likely keep it in the river.
Yes, I did pick up those odd pills from the merchant, but I've never tested them, nor entirely fancy wanting to jump in a river hoping to find a hidden cavern. The river is quite large.
Well, it's not my best idea, I can say that. But
I don't know, I'm happy to give the Baron an experience point for finding a use for a cipher that was randomly generated. Well done, have one.
oh, thank you.
Okay. This would seem like the best idea, and I am a fairly strong swimmer, so that should be of good use for us. Do you have any other potential ideas or anything that we need to have done before we go investigate this?
Well, I'm not the one that hangs out under bridges very often. Perhaps our friend Gable here would have some more input.
I have as much input as you do.
Very well, I will go swimming.
Okay. Is the Duke going alone, or are the two of you going to give him support from the riverbank? Or from the bridge?
Do any of us have like a rope, perhaps? I don't know.
Yeah. As you tooled up beforehand, Gable has a rope about his person.
Okay.
As does the general, and the Duke rather.
Yes.
I'll use the rope I have.
Maybe anchor it
So-
to the bridge.
So you're going to tie the Duke and lower him into the water. Is that the plan?
Yeah, hopefully without him drowning, or that's what the pills are for, right? I don't know
Okay.
how fierce this river is or not.
What else is
Yeah.
at the base of the bridge? Is there anything else that, like, any other kind of entrance? I mean, I don't see.
As you approach the bridge, this is the largest bridge in Chi. It actually has several stories of buildings on top of it, on either side of it, with a road that actually passes between. Blimps are moored above each of the buildings. This is quite an affluent area in which merchants operate, and indeed many of the merchants are packing up for the night because it's starting to get dark. As you look beneath the bridge, well, you try and, as you're approaching it, you look beneath it. As you're on it, you look over the edge of it where you can get to the edge, where buildings aren't obstructing your pathway. And you can't see any structures on the underside of the bridge.
How deep does the water seem, or how fast is the river flowing?
It's a pretty fast-flowing river. You're not that far away from the sea, to be honest. So you're going to have to be a damn good swimmer to not just get your bones broken as one of you tries to hold on to the rope and the other one of you paddles against the current. It's deeper than you. It's probably about 3 or 4 times as deep as you are tall. There are some boats on the water, which what I would have thought, as the GM, would have been the more logical path to travelling on a river. But as you didn't suggest that, I'm using GM caveat to say there are no boats available to the group. That's my GM intrusion on the Duke. Duke, you can spend a experience point to deflect that, or you can gain 2 and give 1 away.
I'll accept it because we didn't think of it, and after seeing the boats, we weren't able to find one. And I'll accept the experience and give another one to the using the pill and not using a boat.
All right, so that's the Baron then. So you are slowly lowered into the water by Gable and the Baron.
Yes, I will take off my cloak and leave the great sword and the hammer there for obvious reasons, but I'll keep the forearm blade strapped to my arm and go in just my leather clothing.
Are you ingesting your pill? I'm not so harsh a GM that I'm saying you forgot to take your water breather.
Yes, I will take it. I will put in the pill right before they start to lower me.
Okay. All right. So as soon as you connect with the water, you feel your feet sort of taken out from beneath you. It is quite a roaring current down here. I'd like for what's your might might pool, Baron, and what's your might pool, Gable? Whoever's got the strongest will be making the roll, and the other one will be assisting.
I'm probably the lowest.
Baron's at a
I
very
have a might poll of 16.
Yeah, I'm a lot lower than that.
And the Baron, sorry?
a very humble 10.
10. And what does Gable have?
I'm at a 7.
Alright, so you're really being held up by the strongest the ninth world has to offer. Okay, I'm going to be asking the Baron on a difficulty. I'm liking tier 5 difficulties. So it's going to be a 15. And of course, you're being assisted by Gable, so it's reduced to a 12. If you have any Numenera or any skill that might assist you in bracing yourself, strength, holding onto this rope, nothing.
I have a skill of. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah, the Duke has a skill of swim, which will come into play when they let go of you.
Oh, the Duke is a good acquaintance, so I guess I could use some effort.
Yeah, that's well. How decent of you, Baron. The efforts to prevent your friend from being washed into the sea.
Very humble man. Or very yes. So I'll drop my pool from 10 to 7 and drop it once more, so it's difficulty 9.
Okay, so yeah, you need to roll a d20 then, Baron, and get a 9 or above.
So the
Good
chance
luck.
of you dying is a good 50-50, so we got this.
Yep.
Oh.
4. Neither the Baron nor Gable were prepared for the strength of the rushing water, and the rope goes through their hands. They really should have tied it onto something beforehand.
He'll be fine. I'm sure.
I was thinking you were going to say, can I pay an experience point to say we did tie it on something, but nope. You're just going to say, he'll be fine, as the Duke goes splush into the water. Okay, now over to the Duke. I need you to do a swim check. Well, I need you to do a might check. Difficulty rating is again going to be a 15, so you can use your skill of swimming to reduce it to 12, and by all means you can apply some effort from your might pool to reduce it to 9.
Yes, I'll do that. I'll reduce my pool from 16 to 13 to bring it down to a 9.
Okay. Good luck.
And I rolled a 12.
Oh. Okay. So you manage to somehow fight the current and do what your instinct tells you to, which is plunge down as deep as you can, because you know that if this thing is underwater, it's going to be presumably on the riverbed. And hopefully the current is less strong the lower down you go. That's a guess, through no informed calculation. The Baron and Gable, you see the Duke disappear beneath the water, and all is quiet, except for the roar of airships above your head.
Why didn't you let go of the rope?
Perhaps this would have been a better idea. I'll go ahead and activate my scanning cipher and shoot an orb or use it to scan down into the water a good 50 feet.
Yeah, that would have been a fantastic idea to use that for. So you wouldn't have to indeed anything afterwards.
This is not to find the base in his logic. It's to make sure that the Duke's all right.
Yeah. Right. Okay. Well, you let the scanning cipher go underneath the water, and you on the little visor that you've got over your left eye, you can see all manner of interesting things at the bottom of the river. A few bodies here and there, some sunken boats, and exactly what you were looking for. There is actually a building built into the riverbed, and thankfully, the last thing you see, the very small shape of the frantically paddling Duke, who is swimming in the direction, breaststroking his way as fast as he possibly can, alternating with a front crawl, just desperately trying to fight against the current. Should have really dropped him off the other side of the bridge, but who was to know where this thing was? And you see him just reach the opening of this, what looks like stone structure underneath the water. Okay, Duke. You have managed to swim your way, almost like swimming a marathon, towards the opening of what looks to you to almost be an underwater castle. And you grab either side of the doorway. As you pull your way through, you are not prepared, and your lungs are not prepared for the air that greets you as you enter the building and land flat on your face on the stone ground. Somehow this building is atmospherically sealed.
How did the pill work? When I was in the water, was I able to breathe, and now that I'm back in air, do I breathe fine, or am I still, is the pill's effects?
You're breathing fine. It doesn't mean you can only breathe water.
Perfect.
However, you don't know whether it'll work when you go out into the water.
Yeah. I will gather myself up as quickly as possible and try and catch my breath and look around and see what is in the passageway I've landed in.
It's actually a wide open room, much like a warehouse. It's very, very dark in here, but you can see what amounts to laboratory equipment, I suppose. Tables, desks, workstations, and the like, but it appears that there's been some kind of chaos strewn about this place. Devices are broken, equipment is smashed. You can't see anyone standing up, moving around, you can't hear any talking. But in the shadows, and it is very, very dark in here, there's just a couple of glow globes over the doorway that you just entered through. You can see some shadows moving in the darkness of the room. And then you start hearing a wet slapping from where the shadows are.
I will, with my blade arm forward, I'll slowly walk towards it, calling out, "This is BrigadeCon. I'm here to speak with one of the scientists here." And I'll name one of the names randomly from the list.
As you name the second name, you get a noise from the shadows. As a figure, shambling, almost molten in appearance, looking like a melted candle, clutches its way towards you. It's like someone had just stacked wax on this guy's head and melted it incredibly quickly, because this guy is almost pyramid shaped as he moves towards you. His clothes melted into his skin, his face a complete horror show of overlapping flesh. This guy looks mutated or like some kind of abhuman, and if this was one of the experimenters that was down here, well, you'd be very surprised that he looked like this before he came down here.
Yes, I'll rush over towards him as close as I can. "Good sir, what is it that happened to you? What can I do to help you?"
A GM intrusion would typically make me punish you for your foolhardy honor and decency, asking the monstrosity what's wrong with him. But, you know, it gladdens me to see such righteousness in a game when all I'm typically presented with in most role-playing games is horror, cynicism, and attack the monster immediately. You know what? What was actually going to happen in this is no longer going to happen. This monstrosity is no longer going to grab you and corrode your very flesh. Instead, he is going to start mewling pitifully, start retreating within himself. He can barely enunciate or form a word. All you can hear repeatedly is he keeps repeating the name Janabar, Janabar, and Janabar is one of the names on your list of experimenters. Now, for your decency, have an experience point as well. It's a one-shot, it means nothing. It means you can bat away a GM intrusion when I throw one at you.
Perfect. So I will I will slowly back away from him and then continue to search throughout the building for that name and keep calling it out and looking around and trying to figure out what I can see or if I can find anyone around or any detail.
You can see the remains of 2 other experimenters that aren't as sentient or indeed sapient as this guy. One of the forms is completely dissolved, not dissimilar to the way the guard was molecularly in the Garden of the Crystal Roses. Another one appears to have rather mundanely been stabbed, her body just laying prone on the floor. The only person that doesn't appear to be represented here is this Janabar figure. The mewling is suddenly loud behind you. You haven't heard this thing squelching and clutching its way in your immediate vicinity, but it appears to have been following you quite closely and is trying to gesticulate wildly. I would like you to do an intellect to see whether you can interpret this monstrosity's intentions and attempt to roll a 12 or higher.
Perfect. Would my skill specialty in social interactions help in this endeavor?
I've already given you one buy, so no, not in this case. This is essentially interpreting an alien language, which I don't think you have the cipher for.
Yeah. No. No. Okay, I'll go ahead and roll. I rolled a 16.
Excellent. The mewling mutant is gesturing towards one of the workstations in particular with what amounts to its shoulder. At that point, it starts exploding rapidly. It can no longer maintain this this body. It just starts cutting in on itself, lets out a terrified shriek, and mews no more.
I will have a look of horror on my face and then scamper over towards the work desk and try and see what I can find over there.
You find a wax-sealed letter among various smashed apparatus.
Perfect. I will...
To the Amber Pope. And in brackets beneath it, or whomever else may read it.
I will unseal it and open it up then and read the contents or look at the contents.
The letter reads as follows. Your Holiness, I have been abused by your organization for too long. You have long treated my experiments as vile, as flagrant, as excessive. Yet I have discovered more about the Numenera than any of my peers. Closing down my most recent experiment was one step too far. I am forced to take action. I am forced to take asylum in another nation. I know the importance of your crystal rose garden. I know what those crystal roses go on to fuel and how defenseless your city will be without them. I will have left by nightfall on the day of my attack. You will be hearing from me again when you are attacked from the north. Sincerely yours, Janabar, Aeon Priest.
I will pocket that, put it back in the envelope and pocket it, and then try to remember the details on it and look around and see if I can't find anything else on the desk that would show where he could potentially be staying or an address where he could be staying until he leaves tonight.
Well, night was falling, of course. And I'm going to... that is a very, very good question. So I'm going to give you the possibility of finding something, but it's not going to be an easy difficulty. You're going to be aiming for a hell. Let's make this as hard as I've been making the rest of the game, a tier 5. You can by all means expend more effort on intellect, rendering you into a mindless husk, almost.
Yeah, I only have 2 left, so I better not do that. So I'll just go for blind luck and see.
15 or above, then.
I got an 8, so no luck.
No, you find nothing of note, and it's partly impeded by the fact that it's so damn dark in here.
Very well, so I'll look around, and once I find nothing of value for the date, I'll go to look for some kind of boat or some kind of modes of transportation that they use to leave the building.
There's a staircase, a spiral staircase that actually goes up into the ceiling of this experimental facility. Although from what you can see, the sphere that would typically take you up to the surface of the river appears to have already been jettisoned. One would imagine that Janabar had already been here, done this to his associates, and then, well, left.
Yes.
Just back on the surface, the Baron can actually see all of this going on in the lens on his over his eye. Of course, he's been able to observe the movements of creatures, of people within the warehouse. He won't have been able to read the contents of the letter, but providing the little cipher made its way inside the building, you can still see that the Duke is okay.
I'll give rather unenthusiastic status updates to Gable. Oh, he is walking into a room and he found paper. And he's reading it. Yep, okay. I think he needs help getting out, though. Maybe I'm assuming this complex like in the middle of the river, or is it on the side?
It's in the middle of the river, directly beneath the bridge.
Maybe we can tie a big rock to this rope and tie the other side of the rope to the bridge, throw the rock towards the structure, and he can climb his way up. So if you could fetch me a rock, that would be great. Unless you have a better idea.
Is that what Gable wants to do?
Well, I'll look around in my surroundings. What are some solid, somewhere where we can, fasten this rope.
Oh, there's plenty of mooring stations for airships, so you'd be able to tie the rope around one of those. In terms of weights to throw into the river, you could quite easily find a merchant's crate or other container, possibly even a full one, and you've got enough money to buy whatever's in there, providing you're not taking all his shins and throwing them in the river. So you could basically buy someone's supply of iron filings and then launch them into the river.
Like a madman.
Yeah, in a crate.
It's not like
Well, I don't have a rope. That was the rope that I brought. Basically.
No, that's actually very true. You're going to have to buy a rope as well. Now, if Gable rolls a 6 or above, you can find a merchant who is still selling traveling equipment.
What's the roll again?
6 or above.
6 or above. 8.
Okay. You managed to acquire another rope. You've basically just made yourself poor. You've ran out of shins now, having bought a crate of iron filings and a length of rope.
Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and tie it to one of the structures, like you said.
Mm-hmm.
I'll just reassure Gable that the Duke will reimburse him for his time for saving his life. And I'll try to direct the best I can, but I'm no sailor. I don't know how to tie knots or anything, so I'll just... Yeah, that looks good. That looks good.
You launched the crate into the river then?
Yes.
Okay, back with the Duke. Does the Duke know this is going on? Well, there is another exit, of course. The exit isn't restricted to the one you actually came in via, because it would be stupid to have it being the one that's downstream. So there is one facing upstream as well. So you can exit via the route you know to be safer, or via the roof. Duke? Nope, he appears to not be there. In that case, I'm going to use narrative control and say that he safely ascends to the bridge. Well done, Duke. In your absence, you have to get back up to the surface. Lose an experience point. So the GM intrusion that would have had you swept away into the sea.
As the Duke, comes up from the bridge, I help him up and I tell him that the Baron didn't want to get his hands calloused, so he let go of the rope.
For my own dignity,
Very well.
pretend I didn't hear that.
Yes, I was curious as to why I hit the water so soon on that descent. I just figured you trusted my strength more than your own, good Baron.
Well, I keep you around for certain reasons, and you prove yourself time and time again. So, well done. Well done. What?
Perfect. So when I was under there, I found some chaos. Your little probe followed me, so you saw everything that was there. I had a letter, but I'm sure it is wet and of no use right now. But it was a letter from the remaining members. 3 of the 4 people were there and were killed, and the 4th was the one who I believe is causing this. Wrote a letter to them telling them that he will be leaving tonight, so he's most likely out of town now and is going to find amnesty in the north and will be helping an attack on us from the north here shortly. So
A couple of traders actually look at you inquisitively as you've been pulled up from the water and are announcing this to your deaf colleague. An attack from the north?
I'll look over with a stern look. Eavesdropping is never wise, my friends, and I'll kind of look over and put my arm around the Baron and grab my equipment and hustle over to a more quiet location.
I'll do
all the merchants on the bridge at this time are actually sending their wares back up into their airships by guy rope and pulley. Everything is being launched back into the air as night descends. It's probably about half an hour from sunset now.
I'm gonna retrieve my rope as well while I'm standing there at the bridge.
Yeah, you got it back. You've now got, well, you don't have 2 ropes, you lost one of them. Actually, no, one of them would still be tied around the Duke, so you now have 2 ropes. Well done. That's a victory in any RPG.
Can never be ill-equipped.
The traders and merchants will definitely have a story to tell. I got some crazy people just bought an entire crate full of metal shavings and threw it into the river, and then a man climbed out of nowhere and talked about the uprising from the north. I guess we should tell some people.
So yeah, what are you going to do now? You know that this Jalamar has got access to a Janabar has access to an airship. Given that that's how he launched his attack, you know that he was flying north out immediately after the attack. You know that he will have left the city by the time the sun is down, and you've only got half an hour until that occurs. What are you going to do?
Um,
The question. The end all question.
so I would suggest maybe going to the ports, one of the closest ports, and maybe possibly speaking to anyone there. Maybe they might have seen the ship.
Yes, surely, if he's to make a journey to the northern steadfast,
He was
then
headed to a different city, is what the
you'll
letter
yeah
said.
you'll need to fuel up and get ready. Perhaps I don't know. Seem
Yes, and I'm sure there's not many ports up in the north that would be able to handle an airship too. So his location where he is going would be fairly obvious to most captains. So maybe going to the nearest port and finding where they could go, where he'd go, would be our best route.
I
Very
agree.
well. As far as the Baron is concerned, being that he is the man about town, really there's only one refueling port on the north side, which doubles as a watchtower that looks for incoming airships, of which there are typically very few. It's pretty much right on the northern city wall, just outside of it, in fact, just outside of the city, for anyone who is deciding to make an excursion from Chi. Now, it would be quicker to reach that by airship yourself than it would be to walk or run and then climb all the way up the watchtower. But from where are you going to get an airship?
we must commandeer one.
They're all around you. There's plenty of merchant ships around you. There's plenty of other ships around you. Just to give you a
Uh,
bit of an impression of the kinds of ships, you of course have your hot air balloons. You've got your oval-shaped blimps. You've got traders' ships. You have military ships. The plutocracy ships, Aeon Priest ships, they all offer a different kind of journey. Some are designed for speed, some are designed for luxury. I know which one the Baron would probably prefer, but there's a time and a place.
I asked the Duke if he suggests we speak to someone, an official or someone in the military, to notify them, just so that they're prepared if this assault happens, so that they're not blindsided by this, in case we run out of time.
Mm,
Yes, that would be probably the best, but at the same time, I don't want to give away the knowledge that we know because we don't know how many people actually within the priesthood of Aeon is actually with him, is my biggest fear. Is if we're working with people that are in the government causing these issues, do we need to let them know more?
mm,
But we should definitely, I do not like the idea of stealing a ship, Baron. That is monstrosity. We have ways of using and asking people to take us there. One of the military ships should suffice. I will ask one of the guards if we could book passage.
the slow ways, perhaps, but okay.
Okay, so you're heading towards the nearest guard tower, which is going to be on the north side of this bridge. There is one black ship. You can barely see it in the night time, although there are glow globes lining the underbelly of it. You can recognize the markings of the Tetrahydra Legion, who fly these airships in Driolis. The general is nowhere to be seen, but there's plenty of officers around. When they see the Duke approaching, indeed in your military colours, albeit rather damp, they stand to attention. Sir, what brings you here at this time of night?
Be at ease. We need a transport as soon as possible to the northernmost post, where they feel the ships going north, and speed is imperative.
Well, one of the civilian transportation ships would likely be faster than ours. Ours is laden down with Numenera and indeed even a cannon. By all means, we can fly you there. We are only on patrol, but the public transportation system is faster, sir.
Yes, as you have been aware that the gardens were attacked, and we were actually following after the attacker, afraid of some sort.
We've not been informed that that's the case, sir.
You haven't been told? Well, let me be the first to let you know that we are dealing with a terrorist activity and terrorist attack against our glorious city, and we need to follow after them as soon as possible. And I'm afraid that conflict might ensue, and so I call upon the humble talents that you guys bestow.
Of course, no role required there then. Of course, please climb aboard. I will pilot it myself.
Thank you.
He makes bellowing announcements to the crew who are up till now lounging around, enjoying a bit of shore leave, having drinks and food and the like. Get on board this instant, you useless maggot. There's a general down here who wants to get on board our ship and head to the northern refueling post right now. Our city's under terrorist attack. The Crystal Rose Guards have been shattered. You need to get up there right now. Otherwise, we're going without you and your pay will be docked, and so on. There is a hustle and bustle as all of the ladders are suddenly clambered up by soldiers. You can see why this ship is potentially going to be a little slower than one of the public transportation vessels, simply because of the sheer number of people on it. But you join them, and Gable, is this the first time for your character to be in an airship, do you think?
It is. I mean, I would probably have never had that experience, so...
It's quite a wondrous thing to be feeling like you're floating above the earth. Nowhere that you're walking inside this ship, and of course you're not in the belly, you're as much as you're in the crew compartment. It still doesn't feel stable. It still doesn't feel solid beneath you. It still feels padded and spongy and bouncy, and you're surprised anyone can maintain their footing as this ship is moving. And yet move it does, and maintain footing they do. You, however, have to do a speed roll. Need to do a 9 or above, please. How much you apply effort?
5.
Oh, rather embarrassingly, the nano collapses and struggles to climb back up. It's a bit like being on a bouncy castle as it's moving around. And people are jumping up and down on it, so every time you try and climb to your feet, you're falling back over again, whilst the Baron and the Duke stand quite stoically with their eyes folded.
I kind of play it off that it's this complex device that I carry that's kind of what's messing with my balance here.
Yes, you don't want to drop it in case it goes off.
It's been a long time since the Baron has probably been on a military craft.
Actually, yeah, your hearing can't be helping your balance. You need to roll a 12 or higher, Baron.
Okay. The Baron has quite a bit of pride, so I'll use an effort for this. And he does have he has an edge with speed, so he'll drop it from a 15 into a 13. And see how it goes.
Excellent. You manage to maintain your footing and can't help but look condescendingly down at Gable as he bounces around like a noob on an airship.
It was all worth it.
From the pilot's cabin, you can see the ship up till now is pretty much coasting along, staying within the rest of the boundaries of the traffic. You know that it can actually go faster if it rises above the rest of the airships and isn't afraid to trail its iron guy ropes along their hulls, essentially. Do you want to try and persuade them to do so in order to pick up speed, or are you happy with the ship not causing any civilian casualties?
No, I will go up to the pilot. I always heard that you were able to go a lot faster. Is this really the most that your ability can produce for us? We need to get there as soon as possible.
Oh, I know,
If
sir.
I was a general of this.
But if we ascend, we run the risk of disabling other ships and making them crash to the ground. At least if we stay at this level, if we speed up, we would batter someone else. But if we stay at the same speed, we should reach the tower within half an hour to an hour.
That is no good. We need, however you can get there fastest. If that means some casualties, then it's for the greater good that we look. If you go up and can go faster at a higher altitude, which I believe you can, then shouldn't we be doing that for the city?
You are the general of destruction, are you not, sir?
Yes, I see
I've
that.
heard of your reputation. Very good, sir. I will not disobey an order. He cranks a lever, turns a wheel, and the blimp starts to ascend. Now, as soon as it does so, it starts catching the updraft and moves a hell of a lot faster. The engines and propellers themselves helping to push it outside of the range of the other ships. There are very few ships that fly this high. Most of them are just scouting ships and weather balloons. As you continue, GM intrusion dictates to the Duke that one of the iron cables catches on a civilian craft and tears a hole through its very light silk coating. Do you accept that?
So be it.
Okay, you can have the experience.
Yes, I'll accept it.
So much for being a decent sort. I take it all back. You extend charity to weird mutants, but not to the average pauper on the street. The Baron and Gable are able to see from the crew compartment out of the portholes and through the gaps in the floor, because it's all pretty much wooden boarded here. That's why it's so bouncy. A ship tear, almost like a zipper, undoing down the middle, and it just goes onto the roof of a building. You don't hear the screams, but you hear the crash and cacophony that follows as you jet away from the disaster that you're causing. You can see the watchtower in sight. Another GM intrusion, Duke, said that the cable catches on one of the spires of an amber cathedral. Are you allowing this to occur? For another 2 experience.
No, I will spend an experience.
You care more about architecture.
Yeah,
Okay.
the city must stay intact.
Very well. You spend the experience point, and the pilot manages to avoid it rather. Now, fortunately, as you took the path of least resistance, in a manner of speaking, and made the quickest possible route, just as the sun comes down, you can see that airship that bombed the Crystal Rose Garden just bypassing the watchtower on the northern wall. It looks like it's just finished refueling. It's about to start heading out into Draeolus proper, outside of the city walls. It is within sight of your ship.
I will ask the pilot if we have the capability of following after the ship and getting men aboard or attacking the ship.
Of course, sir. But that's an Amber Papacy vessel.
Yes, that is the ship that attacked the Crystal Gardens and destroyed our most precious gem.
But
We can get me.
But sir, if we attack a vessel of the Aeon priesthood, we are committing all manner of crimes.
I see, that's very true from the outside. Is there any way that you can get me and my associates aboard with them, or at least get them to stop for us? Just to talk with them then, if you are not comfortable in an assault.
Yeah, as you're not trying to convince him to basically aim the cannon at the ship and bring it down, I'm not going to make you do a roll for it. He is in agreement that he will actually... this ship will go fast enough for a short enough burst of time that the three of you would potentially be able to board it from the top, rather than knocking it down. He will be able to do that, but that vessel is actually faster than yours, and the only reason it's going so slow is because it's completely fueled up.
Very well, that'll work. Perfect.
Yes,
I'll go and let us get that. I'll prepare for drop, and I'll go and tell the Baron and Gable we're going to be getting on the ship here shortly. Be ready.
You're given another couple of ropes by the by the Tetrahydra Legion, who jokingly say to the Baron, "Don't hang yourself or nothing." Yeah, roll that 1 as you jump from the airship and see how far your neck stretches. So, the airship, under the control of the Tetrahydra Legion, barrels forward with more speed but no grace than you'd perhaps give it credit. Passing by the Northern Watchtower, you can actually start to see the chevrons on the ship up ahead, the glow globes that mark its presence, illuminating them vaguely in the light, but it is definitely the same airship. Your ship rises above theirs, the iron cables draped and trailing along its back, but not penetrating the hull. The hatch of the crew compartment is thrown open and wind bursts in from how high up you are. The pilot offers you a salute and says, "I've heard of those magnificent free-fallers of the Airborne Legion, those who plummet from dirigibles, and that the survival rate isn't terribly high. So I wish you all the luck that you could possibly be given." And he waits for you to jump out of the ship.
You see that the Baron has a very devious smirk on his face. Like, this is what he thrives for. As he starts wrapping the coil, the rope around his wrists, getting ready to plummet to hopefully not his death.
Okay. Well, attached to the ropes, you should be fine. All I'm going to ask is all three of you to roll a d20, and if any of you score a 1, you're going to go boom, and the rope will go. Otherwise, you will be able to hit the roof of the airship below, and then it will be entirely down to dice rolls to see whether you can actually gain access to the thing.
The Baron will make a point of flamboyantly flipping off the front where he's trained in jumping.
Okay.
Back at his younger ages, he used to swing between ships for fun, so he'll try to make a show out of it.
In that case, I'm not going to make Dubois do a just a normal 20-sided die. Oh well, you've done it anyway. Because the jumping skill means you're not going to fall to your death. However, Gable and the Duke, I will need just a 20-sided die just to see whether you can successfully be dropped down while supported.
So I've got this additional rope. Would it be possible for me to tie this device to myself so that I can use both of my hands?
Yes, of course.
Okay, so then I will do that.
Huge cumbersome orb just strapped to your chest.
Yeah. It looks like a sea mine, with all the spikes sticking out of it. So, did any of you roll a 1?
No, I rolled a 16.
I'm at a 16 as well.
16 as well? Okay, so you all go boom, onto the roof of the green chevroned airship beneath you as the military ship starts to turn and move away. You feel the urgent need to untie yourselves. All of you can roll a d20 again. I'm just again looking for a 1. Or not.
2.
Oh!
I rolled a 3.
Okay, a GM intrusion for Gable says that that's a 1. Do you accept my GM intrusion, or do you bat it back by spending experience?
I do not accept.
Alright then. Probably wise. You don't have to yank off the top of the airship. So you're all 3 of you now on top of an airship that's moving at quite a ponderous speed across the plains north of Chi now. But you are all on the outer surface of a Zeppelin, basically. So what are you going to do from this point? It's quite difficult. It's difficult enough to hear. It's even more difficult how you can hear the roar of flame inside this airship and the noise of the wind in your ears.
Can I see any propellers or anything?
There are propellers at the back of this ship, indeed, yes.
If able to, I'd like to chuck my canister of solvent.
While you're on top of this airship. Yeah, alright. Go for it.
I'd like to just try to throw it at the propeller.
Okay, and you're not selling the Duke or Gable this. Alright then, go for a might roll. I'm going to ask you, as you can pretty much slide towards the propeller as you do it and therefore get a good lob. Do you want to slide towards the propeller as you throw a canister of solvent? That can't go wrong, can it? Sliding.
Heroics and stuff,
Okay.
Yeah, he'll just kind of...
I'm going to try to stop him before he throws that into the propeller. I'm going to try to give him a little bit of... talk him into some sense and see if we can find an entrance.
I think it's actually going to be a speed versus speed then, and whichever one of you gets the higher speed roll.
Here we go.
Well, bear in mind, of course, Dubois is still trying to beat a 9 in order to throw it successfully. What did you get? The Baron got a 10. So, Gable, what you need to roll a d20.
I rolled an 18.
Oh, okay. As Dubois lets loose with the canister, Gable somehow snatches it out the air.
I tell him, do you want to draw some attention here? Let's look for a better way to get in. And I give him back his canister. I toss it back to him.
Is that really wise? Hugh, what are you doing?
While they're dilly-daddling, I'll be looking for an entrance of some sort. Or seeing like a loose panel.
there is a panel that will allow you to access the hull, basically the blimp part of this airship. Although it's unlikely that there's going to be. Well, you don't know how many people are in this ship. There'll probably be walkways within here. It's not where the pilot is likely to be. He's not likely to be underneath it in the sort of undercarriage. But
Yeah. If
But
we
yeah, you
can
can
get into the ship.
yeah, you can gain access to the ship through the roof.
Yeah. I'll pull away at that panel and see if I can't get a big enough opening to allow me to get in.
I'm going to say that it's easy enough for you to do so. You're a very strong glaive. So you manage to wrench the panel open, or at least ease it open, if that's your intention. And are you sliding in by yourself, or are you gesturing for the others to follow?
Yeah, I'll gesture towards them to come over here once I can get their attention.
I make my way over to the Duke.
Okay. So you notice that. And Baron, are you following?
I'll reluctantly, with some hurt pride, head over through the open panel.
From what you can see as you open the panel, Duke, and looking down the ladder, the walkways, they're not patrolled as such, but they do actually have beings upon them, not dissimilar to the experimenter that had been grossly mutated. There are some forms of abhumans within this vessel that appear to be armed with synth blades. It would appear that your quarry has some bodyguards. Or
This
at least
quick question. This temporal viewer that I have, device, you said I'm able to view 10 minutes before an action took place.
you can view up to a year before, but you can view it for, well, up to 10 minutes of footage, basically.
Okay. And how many times can I use this device if I use it?
Only once.
Okay. So, I'll let the Duke and the Baron know that what my device does, and I'll ask them if they think it'd be wise to see the last 10 minutes that occurred in the ship, just to get an understanding of who's in here and what kind of watches are being kept.
So you're telling me that you have a device that lets you see in the past? So how far in the past can you see?
Up to a year.
And do you think it would be wise to view in the ship itself, or see back into that building that I was in back in time to when the attack itself actually happened, and we see what it is that he's using to create these monsters?
Well,
If we can see back into the past.
at this point, we're basically reacting. So, I mean, we're looking for Janabar. So at this point, I mean, we already know what happened as far as the letter goes. He's looking to get revenge. So
Yeah. Yes, I agree. I just want to ensure that he won't use whatever it is he's making these creatures into. He won't use that on us, is my biggest fear on this adventure.
As the roof panel has been opened, it's likely that there's going to have been a roar of noise from the air outside. A GM intrusion, I'm going to pick on the Duke again for keeping it open loud enough for the three of you to enter and basically attach yourselves to the ladder on the inside. One of the abhumans will take notice, only if you accept the GM intrusion. By all means, you can pass it away. Yeah?
I will accept it.
Okay, who are you giving the extra
And
experience point to?
I'll give the additional experience to Gable for for what he's done so far to help us get to this point.
Awesome, thank you.
One of the melted men points up with a rather loose approximation of an arm towards the ladder and lets out a guttural mule, and others within the hull of the ship notice as well. They start slouching and squelching and sloughing their way towards the ladder. Those of them with opposed limbs and thumbs actually pull free blades and, well, daggers and swords made of what looks like a synth sort of plastic. And one of them, at the foot of the ladder, starts tapping it in a provocative fashion, as if to say, "Come down, we're waiting for you." There's 3 of them at the foot of the ladder.
I will, as soon as they start doing that, being the proud Duke, I'll unsheath my greatsword and go down the ladder, active to engage in combat.
Okay, I'm just going to check as well. What's the Baron doing?
The Baron is going to pull back his corduroy jacket, and lined on the inside is darts. Many small darts that he's going to start pulling one out and getting it ready to fling at these creatures,
Okay.
keeping his rapier sheathed.
And what's Gable intending on doing?
How many did you say there were? How many creatures?
3 at the foot of the ladder, although from all the muling that's currently filling the airship, you would estimate there's probably more of them within.
Are they shaking the ladder? They're trying to get us to fall off of the ladder?
No, they're just tapping it as if in a way to say, we know, well, we can see you up there, you can't hold on forever. We've got swords, come on down, let us chop you up. But they're not shaking it. Right now they're just playing.
I guess yes. I'll have to prepare for combat as well.
Do you go equipped with any particular weapon?
The only thing I've got is a dagger, so I will wield a dagger as I descend.
Okay. And do any of you have offensive Numenera?
Canister of solvent, but I probably won't be melting them any more than they need to be. So
I have the explosive, the detonator that'll explode. But I mean, I don't know if that'll draw a lot more attention.
or blow us out of the sky.
Yeah, that might happen. Well, you know, it's worth a risk if it all goes horribly wrong. As the Duke, I'm not going to do this in initiative order as such as the order that you both, you all went down the ladder. So the Duke slides down the ladder, gripping either side of the metal frame, with your broadsword clutched in one hand as you go. This is actually going to take you right into the center of these creatures. I'd like you to roll based on their difficulty, and I'm going to multiply it because there's 3 of them. You're going to need to get a 12 or above in order to get the first strike on them. If you're trained in swordsmanship or anything at all that you feel could be appropriate in this, or you want to apply effort to your speed, of course, that will reduce the difficulty.
I am practiced with all weapons, but that is it. If you think that would affect it.
No, that's not a skill, unfortunately.
Perfect. So
So
I will.
Go for them, you need a 12 or above, unless you apply effort using your speed.
Yes, I'm going to apply effort using my speed, and because I have an edge, you'll drop me down from 10 to 8.
Okay.
And I roll a d20 to get an 8.
Ah.
So just barely fail.
Yeah.
Oh, and
One of these things reaches out to grab you as soon as you land. This one isn't armed, fortunately, and more kind of launches itself at you with its mass, sticking to you in all kinds of fleshy places. You can feel it burning as soon as it connects with your skin. It's essentially epilating you at this point. You can remove 3 points of night from your pool.
Can I have some new scars when we're done?
Do I roll defense for that? I have might defense. Would that affect anything for this?
Yeah, by all means. You can roll to see whether you can reduce the damage. It's still going to be, because it's a level 3 creature, you need 9 or above.
Perfect. And does might defense, does that just give me the ability to do it, or does that decrease the difficulty?
Off the top of my head, I don't recall. I'm going to say it just gives you the ability to do it because you already failed to act first, essentially.
Yeah. I rolled a 9, so no luck.
Oh, okay, just on. All right, well, in that case, I'm going to halve it rounded down. You lose 1 point of might instead, as this thing grabs you and partly constricts you. You're not unable to breathe or unable to move, but it's basically holding you in place so its friends can stab you more easily. Of course, now you can go forward with your blade. Just because you came in second in the initiative action doesn't mean you can't move at all. You're going to be on a tougher tier difficulty to actually strike one of these creatures because of your impeded motion.
Yes.
What
So
are you
I'll go to strike the one that's holding on to me then with my blade, and I will use the fighting move of thrust, which is 1 cost, but with my edge will make it none, and I'll add 1 damage to the attack.
Excellent. So you're trying to cut yourself free from this abhuman.
Yes.
Okay then. I would like you to roll on your might, as it would typically be a tier 3 difficulty, as it's a tier 3 creature. And you've got your thrust ability as well. I'm happy to reduce this to a tier 2 difficulty attack, so 6 or above.
Perfect. And I roll a 15.
Excellent, and you do an extra 1 point of damage with it as well. You run your sword through this abhuman's, what again counts for arms and belly on this thing, and kind of slice it off like it's molten brie stuck to you, and you're just trying to cut it free. So bits of it are still stuck to you, part of it's recoiling from your body as it lets out a hideous wail. The other two try and stab at you. Could you do I just need you to roll 1 d20. I need you to get a 12 or higher on a speed in order to avoid their thrusts.
I rolled a 3, so I did not.
Oh, okay, yeah, even if you applied effort. You are going to, at this point, I'd like you to roll now a 9 or above on your might defense. See if you can reduce the damage from them skewering you.
I rolled a 6. No luck.
Okay. You're going to actually be taking 6 points of might damage here. That's both of them. Although you're no longer constricted, both of them are able to stab you. One of them slices you across the back. The other one actually stabs you in the side.
I'm down to 6 might.
Oh, okay. The two of you up the ladder can see what's befalling the Duke. It's up to the Baron now to act. What can he do to save the day?
The Baron will shout out like as if punishing a child, "Stop it!" and go to throw a dart at one of the abhumans that is impaling his friend.
Okay, I need you to get a 9 or above, please.
Okay. With this, I'll use. I'm assuming it's a speed where it's thrown.
Yeah.
Okay. I'll use a effort, and I have a edge, so I'll drop it from a 13 to an 11.
Okay, so 6 or above, please. Are you going for one of the ones with the blades, or the one that was trying to hold on to him and corrode him?
Let's go for the one that was trying to face hug him and goop him up.
Okay. He is already injured, so okay.
Nope.
No, no, no. You're lucky you didn't get a 1. You might have just impaled the Duke in the head. The Duke hears the darts clatter to the walkway beside him. It's sticked into the metal somehow. It comes dangerously close to your foot, Duke. And Gable, are you sliding down the ladder?
Yes, I will slide down and try to be as stealthy as possible. With my dagger, I'm going to try to attack the closest creature.
Okay, they've already spent their attacks on the Duke, so your appearance actually takes them by surprise, in a sense. You can get a free attack on one of them. You still need to get a 9 or above to actually make your attack count.
Okay.
You can apply it to your might.
Natural 20.
Natural 20! Oh! Okay, major effect time. I'm quite happy for you to narrate the death blow that you suddenly, unexpectedly deal to this abhuman, and you can choose whichever one of the abhumans you choose.
I would go. I mean, probably the closest one. I mean,
And so, okay, so as you slide down the ladder, you jump to the ground, your feet hitting the walkway lightly, not making a sound due to how stealthy you are. Perhaps you even jumped off of the ladder just before you reached their head height and behind one of them, and then plunged your dagger into the back of one of their necks. It doesn't even let out one of their odd screams as it just collapses into a heap of mulch by your feet. That was one of the ones carrying the synth blade.
Nice.
The prize is as much on the abhuman as it is on you. That you were able to do that. Okay, we're back to the Duke. Now that you're free, Duke, you can actually go. You can actually move again before the abhumans.
I'd like to strike on the one that I attacked the first time.
Okay, so the constricting one, yes. Okay, so 9 or above, please.
And I'd like to use thrust for that again, so I'm thrusting my blade in more than trying to hack him up.
Okay, I'm happy with that. Let's go for 6 or above.
I rolled a 13.
13, okay. Your blade slices straight into him. It does another +1 damage, of course, doesn't it? So you run this thing through. It's already in a state of some damage due to its, lack of structure, as well as the fact that you've already cut into it once before. And it lets out a wail as your blade cuts straight through it from chest to back. You can actually see your blade protruding from the other side. You don't even get the opportunity to pull your blade free before it just melts around it and starts seeping through the walkway, leaving only one and the Baron up the ladder. Baron?
Alright. The Baron is going to use his Tier 1 ability with Fights with Panache, which is Attack Flourish. With your attack, you add stylish moves, entertaining quibs, or a certain something that entertains or impress others. Choose any number of creatures within short range who can see you. Each of them gains a +1 bonus to its next die roll.
Okay.
And with that, I'm going to have him brandish his shiny gold-encrusted rapier and leap off of the ladder while doing a spin in the air and go in for a stab.
Okay, I like it. I like it a lot. In that case, I'm going to reduce your difficulty. Get a 6 or above, please.
Alright.
So basically do a Sephiroth and jump down with a rapier. completely not made for this kind of attack. But somehow you're making it look fantastic. 19. Okay, minor effect. Well, you know what? Because you were fighting with panache, what quip are you going to say? You're going to have to come up with a damn good one that relates to impaling a sludge creature with a rapier from a great height. You've got plenty of things to work with there. But if you can think of a suitable quip, you can kill it with one hit. There's no pressure. There's a lot of pressure.
As I'm spinning through the air, I'll say, suck on this as I run it down its throat.
Oh, okay, as you're running it, if you had said that whilst just piercing the top of its head, that wouldn't have counted for anything. Saying suck on this as you stick a rapier down a creature's throat, I'll grant you that. It looks up as you say it, and as it opens its mouth in shock, what fills its mouth is your bejeweled rapier that then explodes out the back of its lower back. Now, this particular abhuman, molecularly unsound as it is, starts to vibrate as you do that. It starts to shake violently. What are the three of you doing?
I would like to actually use this time to do an instant heal and to heal some of my might back.
Recovery.
Okay.
Recovery, yeah.
So you're going to lean against the railing and just take a breath as this thing is shaking violently. Aaron?
I will pull my sword up like this, catch it, and try to do a run and slide across the floor away from it.
Okay, I'm happy for you to do that. And Gable?
So it looks like it's gonna basically erupt or something, right?
Yeah, like a big spot.
So I'm basically gonna dodge and kind of slide out of the way and kind of go prone.
Okay, as the Baron is kind of actually you're down as stealthy. I'm happy for both of you to manage that. The Duke, who is perhaps most unaware of all of this given his injured state, leaning against the railing, deep breath. It's been a while since he's been in a fight like that. It's been a while since he's been in the army. Then glances over, happens to see this great shaking monstrosity as it explodes. Duke, I'm going to ask you to do a speed check. You need to get a 12 or above in order to not get blasted by this thing's eruption.
Yes, I'm going to use some effort and drop my 8 speed to a 6 speed.
Okay. So 9 or above them, please.
And I rolled a 5.
Okay. You catch most of the brunt of this thing in your face as it blows up, and you have mildly corrosive abhuman coating you. It spreads further than that and actually coats the inside of the airship, and the hull starts to sizzle. You take 3 points of might damage, I'm afraid. That's not going to be reduced by your might defense because there wasn't really much you could do to defend it.
Okay, I'm down to 3 might then.
Oh yeah. You can start hearing more mewling from the rear of the ship. You can see that there is a ladder that goes further down from your current walkway that probably leads down to the crew quarters where the pilot should be. You can also head forward to the front where the main engine room is likely to feed into the engines that are at the rear of the ship. So where do you want to go?
I will. I'll probably look back at my sizzling, skin-bubbling friend, and from my corduroy jacket, I'll fetch my handkerchief and start to assist him to try to get it off of his face.
I'll walk by him, shaking my head. Let us go to the engine rooms. That's where the scientists will most likely be.
Sure thing.
I agree.
And I'll kind of.
You head to
Don't
the front. You head to the front of the ship. The Duke, nicely epilated now by the lacking eyebrows, or indeed the top layer of his skin. All of a sudden, he feels the need to adorn his ceramic ring that will make him feel like there's smooth hands caressing his body, because right now he's stinging a great deal.
Yeah, I'll slip my ring on my finger and kind of take a breath from it, and then continue walking with the massaging going on.
Yeah, it's like you're getting a massage on the move. It's better than you could have possibly thought. More appropriate than you ever thought it would be. You find yourself in the engine room. None of these abhumans are there. Indeed, the Aeon Priest that you're looking for isn't either. Although it looks like this place is built to be much like a similar workstation to what you saw in the underwater experimental facility. There's a workstation here. You can see various keyfanks that are scattered quite loosely around the laboratory, quite dangerously so. It would appear that he was intending on setting this place up as a laboratory on the move for when he left Shi.
I'm gonna explore his equipment. What kind of equipment does he have?
Most of it is, of course, in aid of keeping the ship afloat. If you do an intellect roll, I just need you to get a 9 or above, please, Gable. You can apply it. Oh no, you've got Numenera training, haven't you? 6 or above.
I rolled a 3.
Ah, all right. You can't find anything particularly notable about this place. You've never seen equipment of this kind before. Certainly it's curious, but you can't understand it. Anything that you or the Baron are doing in here?
Well, looks like you were wrong. There's no one in here.
Indeed, I suppose we go the next direction then. Are you finished here, Gable?
At this time I am.
You can have a quick search around the room if you like. As I said, this is decked out like a laboratory, so there are all kinds of...
Are there documents, any kind of books?
Yeah, there are books here. There are books, there are scrolls, there are all kinds of written works, and a small blackboard with formulae on.
I'll peruse through some of those.
As you're doing so, you can all hear the mewling getting louder. You would imagine that the abhumans have presumably discovered the remains of their companions, are likely to either start heading towards you or heading towards the crew compartment. You didn't check to see whether there was another way down to the crew compartment. I will let you, Baron, do an intellect roll. You just need to get a 6 or above.
Alrighty. 10.
10. From here, from the very front of the ship, you can see there is actually a rope that stems. If you imagine that a blimp is shaped, this is difficult to do, like that, like an egg, and you've got one end of it here. There is actually a rope that goes from the cone, from the nose, all the way down. So you could conceivably sort of shimmy your way down through the hole, sort of sliding down towards the crew compartment, which would allow you to avoid the abhumans, unless you want to engage in another fray. In the meantime, Gable, through your searching of the books, you don't find anything that tells you what the Aeon Priest was doing, but you do find an awful lot that relates to the Sea Kingdom of Garn. which is to the northwest of Rhinodas.
Oh, we're always here.
Okay. I let my friends know what I found here. And I'm gonna try to, with haste, of course, I'm gonna try to gather as many of the books that seem like they would be useful and try to pack those. And then from there, if we decide to take the route of where the rope is at, I'll use a stealth as well.
Okay, I'm happy if that's what all of you want to do. If all of you want to basically slide down into the base of the airship, I'm quite happy for all of you to do that. Without.
Can I roll my recovery now, since I imagine I wasn't able to do that since the body exploded?
Exactly. You were in the midst of doing so, and then you got a pimple blowing up all over you. So yeah, go for it.
Molten.
I rolled a 4, and because I'm tough, I get a +1, so I'll get 5 points back for my might.
Yep.
So I'm up to 8 now.
Okay.
The Baron will actually lead the way to slide down the rope towards the crew quarters.
As you slide down, you can actually see above you as you're going down the hull of the ship. You can see above you on the walkways the abhumans pointing and gesturing down at you guys as you slide down into the base of the airship, making various noises and starting to launch gobbets of themselves at you. You can also see the blackness of the light pouring in through holes in the hull from where the last one exploded. There's not holes enough to make this thing go down. There's plenty of pockets of air that are being fueled, or whatever gas is keeping this thing afloat. But lots of holes would probably spell disaster. All of you slide with enough speed that none of these projectiles hit you, and you end up on the roof of the crew quarters. Just as one of these abhumans tries to climb down the ladder towards you.
I will hastily look for some kind of entrance into the quarters.
There is a circular trapdoor, essentially, a manhole.
I will go over to it and see if I can't open it up for us and gesture for my companions to join me.
It appears to be locked.
Canister of love.
You're pouring your canister of solvent on it?
Yes.
Stopping him?
He's gonna stop you.
The abhuman is slowly descending the ladder towards you. Okay, you pour the solvent atop it, and it does burn through the roof of the manhole. Now I'm going to make my first roll of the evening. I know the GM. In fact, no, the GM doesn't make any rolls in Numenera. Baron, I'm going to make you roll a d20. I would like you to roll a 9 or above. We'll make it pretty much 50-50 to see whether it continues burning through as it hits the bottom of the crew compartment.
15.
15, okay, you do superlative damage. It doesn't just burn through the manhole cover, allowing you to slide in. It also keeps working its way down and starts burning away through the ground there. So make sure when you go down the ladder you don't just keep falling. The abhuman is within about 20 feet of you, and it looks like it's ready to drop. Are you all falling into the crew compartment?
Yep.
Yes.
Standing behind you, back off the abhuman.
I'll dive in, drawing my rapier as I land.
Okay, Gable?
Following along as well.
Duke?
I will wait to ensure that those two get down, and then as soon as they get in, I'll go last and follow after them with my weapon drawn.
You don't think the abhuman will fit through the hole that was made by the Baron's corrosive element, at least not until it squeezes itself in and widens the hole with its own corrosion. So this will possibly give you a few minutes in the crew compartment. As you land on the ground, which is slowly becoming quite, what would the word be, unstable beneath the solvent, a figure whirls from the control panel, clad in the admittedly dirty garb of an Aeon priest. A woman with long white hair, with a strangely long and almost melted looking face. Again, looks like she's a candle that's been just left to burn down. Glares at you. I saw you following me on a military ship. I did not think you were bored. Well, you will not take me alive, you Drayola scum. At which point she launches a sphere, a brass sphere, at her feet, just before her, and a wall of inferno detonates in front of her. You can hear her laughing behind the wall as the flames start to catch the crew compartment all around. You can't imagine there's much air where she is, well, until it burns through, of course, and she's just exposed to it. What are you guys going to do? The airship is starting to burn all around you.
Well.
You could possibly dive through the wall of fire and survive it. If you're feeling brave and adventurous, you can possibly dive out of the airship as it starts to rapidly descend through the hole you just created in the ground and leave her to the fate of the elements. Or you could try flinging darts at her through the wall of fire, or try putting the fire out in some manner. It's entirely up to you. You've got various methods at your disposal. But the inferno wall does not appear to be abating. You hear a whoosh as it catches a great quantity of flammable gas in the airship above you.
Ooh.
That's no good.
How?
I will look over.
Oh, hang on, we'll do Duke first. We'll go in player order again. So, Duke.
I will look towards the Baron and tell him giving justice is what matters most, and go diving through the wall of fire after the antagonist.
Okay, you burst your way through the wall of fire towards Janabar, the exiled Aeon, self-exiled Aeon priest, taking 4 points of might damage as you do. If your skin wasn't feeling bad before, it's not feeling good now. What you actually see that she's doing, because she was almost impossible to see through the wall of flame, is she was unclasping a small trapdoor at her feet that would have actually allowed her to unfurl a ladder to the surface. So you find her pretty much on her knees, putting the trapdoor up, as she looks up to see you vault through the wall of fire with your blade out in hand, and she screeches. What does the Baron do?
To be honest, he probably shoots his gaze over at his friend as he goes diving through the flames, sees the flames, looks down at the hole in the floor, looks at the flames. He'll just hold his action and see how close the ground is getting to him.
Okay, and Gable?
I'm feeling pretty stealthy myself. I'm gonna try to vault this flame as well.
Okay, leaving the Baron as the only coward in the group, the Nano valiantly dives through into the front of the cabin, taking 4 points of might damage. Remove that from the pool, please.
Okay.
and onto the other side, leaving the Aeon Priest between the both of you, screeching as she fumbles inside her cloak for what you can only presume is another piece of the Numenera. Duke?
I strike down on her. I'm going for the shot. I'm going to use thrust again.
You can spend all the experience points you've earned if you want an instant kill.
Yes, that'd be perfect.
Okay. All right. In that case, you can describe exactly what happens, and I'll describe the aftermath.
So as she goes fumbling for some kind of equipment, I'll shout for the glory of Chai and stab it into her neck and pull it out, hoping to leave the body in the place, but without a head.
Excellent. Gable, what you see is, of course, the glaive driving his blade through this Aeon Priest's neck, rendering her deceased immediately. But then you start hearing a familiar whine, an ear-piercing, shrill noise from inside her cloak. It sounds to you like another one of these Gifanks, and you know what happens when they detonate in an enclosed space.
Not again.
The flames are raging around you. The airship is going down. Her cloak is starting to vibrate with this Gifang that is about to let out its ear-piercing, shrill noise. What are you going to do, Gable?
Probably try to feel lucky and try doing an attack as well.
You're going to try and attack the Numenera that she's got inside her cloak.
So it's alive, you said? It's like a...
It was a brass, it was like a little brass cube before that was just whizzing around on the spin.
Would I know if just by looking at it, if I was to grab it, if it would harm me in any way?
It's not the sort of thing that's supposed to do physical harm unless there's a lot of them.
Okay, then I would try to retrieve it then.
Okay, I'd like you to do a speed roll. I'm going to need you to do a 12 or above in order to get this Giphanx from her cloak before it goes off. And then you can describe what you're going to do with it, whether you're going to try and deactivate it or just vault out of the airship holding it. I leave entirely, or throw it in the direction of the Baron even. It's entirely up to you, but you're going to need to get a 12 or above on a speed in order to get it in time. You can by all means spend effort.
Yeah, I want to spend it.
So reduce your speed pool by 3, and now you need to get a 9 or above.
Okay. 14.
You grab the Giphanx as it starts to vibrate viciously in your hand. What are you going to do with this brass cube that's about to go off?
I will try to deactivate it.
Okay, with your Numenera training, that's going to reduce the difficulty to a 12. You can apply effort using intellect and reduce your intellect pool by 2.
Okay, I'll reduce my intellect.
Okay, so that's now 9 or above. The Duke, if you do have any knowledge of the Numenera whatsoever?
None at all.
No, okay, I'm not going to allow you to assist on this unless you want to do a sort of group thing where the Nano's clutching this thing and you just put your hand on his and you say, we'll do this together.
I do have an ability because I'm a leader called Good Advice, and it's 1 intellect, and I believe it allows a step to go down by giving him like encouragement on it. Let me check for you for.
No, do it. I like the sound of it. You've got to say something suitably inspirational to Gable, though.
Remember what the priest told us when you're listening to her class. You've done this hundreds of times. You're the most talented Nano that I know. I believe in you. I'll stand firmly with your action.
The Baron's on the other side of the flame wall, crying at the beauty seeing the earth rising up towards him quite swiftly, Gable, you only need to get, because I'm a nice sort of a guy, a 6 or above.
All right. An 8.
Oh, just as well. He gave you that inspirational speech, really, wasn't it? Like a Rubik's Cube, you twist the Gephanx, you twist it again, so horizontally, vertically, it reveals the button that you switch, it stops vibrating in your hand, just as flames consume the room. Baron, what are you doing?
How close are we to the ground?
Oh, I'm going to say in this time you could have been hooking up, well, you could have unfurled the rope ladder that would be attached to the crew compartment. And that rope ladder is about 30 feet from the ground, so this airship is about 60 feet from the ground.
I'll start
Going down quickly.
I'll start unfurling the ladder and making my way down as I hear them talking to each other very motivationally, like they're about to die.
Gable, I'm going to allow you to grab the Duke and jump through the hole yourself back through the flame wall. As the flame wall cuts out, the Numenera that activated it ceases. Now you're in a big flaming airship. Gable, if you roll a might and get a 9 or above, you can by all means use effort again. You can grab the Duke, who's presumably clutching the head of this Aeon Priest. Are you? Use it as a trophy? Yeah, I thought you were. I thought that's why you decapitated her, you monster. I think I called you decent and nice earlier. I'm killing people like this. Yeah, Gable, 9 or above, please, to grab the Duke and jump through the hole.
A 10.
Oh, just on the cusp. As the Baron makes his way down the ladder, he happens to see the Nano and the Glaive jump past him and lands in a lake that you were just passing over. You are forced, Baron, to let go of the ladder as well as the airship starts coming down faster than you can climb. You all hit the ground or land in the water as the airship, Hindenburg style, goes into the ground. A great hulk of the husk of an airship, smouldering, burning away faster than you could have even guessed it might have. No sign at all of the abhumans that were in it. Anything that was within just being combusted by the inferno that rages there. The 3 of you surviving, the Glaive clutching onto the head of the errant Aeon Priest, like it's his own. The 3 of you.
I gotta have.
Yeah, the 3 of you heroes who saved Chi from an impending war. Is there anything that the 3 of you would like to say to each other as you realise your victory?
The Baron will turn towards the Duke. I know a great taxidermist.
Speaking of things that are stuffed, where were you during that whole time? You always talk of your valor and your excitement. I saw nothing from you.
He was afraid to get his clothes, his garments charred.
But what about the ladder, huh? Well, I'll see if I have reception or anything. Otherwise, it's gonna be a long walk back to town.
There you go.
Well, we will conclude here, I think, with the 3 battered, burning, or wet heroes trudging their way back to Chi, seeing the military vessel that they embarked from, waiting for them at the Northern Watchtower, waiting for their return. the city walls beckoning them, welcoming them home as heroes that they will undoubtedly be lauded as. And thank you very much, players, for playing. Thank you very much, viewers, for viewing. I just have to say to everyone who's participated in this, in whatever form you have participated, thank you very much. Thank you very much for supporting BrigadeCon. If you haven't contributed to the Child's Play charity yet, even if it's a tiny amount, $1, $10, whatever, I sincerely encourage you to do so. It is a fantastic cause. This is our first YouTube RPG Brigade convention, and it seems to have gone fantastically well. And I seem to have run a game that I enjoyed, which is always good fun. Any last words from the players?
Just want to thank you for running a fantastic Numenera game and introducing me to Numenera through your review. So that's what it's all about.
Oh, well, thank you very much.
Yeah, for me, it's the first time I've ever played. This is a excellent game. I mean, thanks a lot. This is a lot of fun. I definitely will be playing this game in the future with my gaming group.
Wonderful. Okay, well, I should be on commission from Monty Cook. Anything from you, Cody, to finish off today?
Yeah, it's just the same. Thank you so much. Just being able to run with you was just such a pleasure. Just watching your videos and actually getting to role play with you was a huge honor. Thank you so much. This was great, and I love that this is what we can do. We can be in all parts of the country and still be together doing what we love. It's awesome.
Yeah, well, thank you, all three of you, very much. That wasn't what I was expecting, and that is very touching, and you can probably tell I'm embarrassed now. But it's a nice embarrassment. But that is what the YouTube RPG Brigade is ultimately about. There's people all over the world who love this hobby, which is a fantastic hobby. It's the best hobby. And we've all found each other through these videos that we all post up on YouTube. We found each other through our Facebook group, the YouTube RPG Brigade. If you haven't joined it yet, I sincerely encourage you to do so, because if you don't have a role-playing game group, you can do a lot worse than sign up to that Facebook group, find other players, and play with them via Google+, just like this. I wouldn't be playing with a bunch of continentals and colonials, as I often do, without Google Plus and without the Brigade. So thank you everyone for watching, and I encourage your participation in events like this in the future. I'm now going to be terminating the broadcast, so have a good night, everybody.